Chapter 4897. Lin Yi and the others turned to Inai Kaiwa, thinking that she'd be overjoyed. Even if she couldn't bring herself to finish them off, she'd at least use the opportunity to escape. What they didn't expect was for Inai Kaiwa to be even more afraid, trembling so much that she couldn't even move her feet. She looked like she was about to cry. Could it be that this girl still had feelings for Chong Lading? The group wondered. Her feelings for Scum were stupid, but it wasn't completely incomprehensible. They were Dao companions after all. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Will he come after me if I step on him? Inai Kaiwa was panicking again. Lin Yi and the others faint. It wasn't feelings at all. It was Chong Lading's revenge. How was she still thinking about stepping on Chong Lading, even in a situation like this? What the hell was wrong with this girl's brain? I say, girl, are you done yet? Can you stop wandering around there? You're making me dizzy. Linny said, speechless. Ah, what? You call me that? Inai Kaiwa finally stopped and stared at Linny with wide eyes. You're teasing me. Ah. Linny stared blankly at the girl, not knowing what to say. How was he supposed to communicate with someone like this? He wasn't supposed to tell her to be a good kid with a lollipop, that he wasn't a bad guy. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other, too, and Lu Xiaozhong was the only one holding in his laughter. If it weren't for Lin Yi's glare, he'd be slapping his thighs and laughing out loud. What an idiot. Lin Yi thought about it for a long time, and finally managed to choke out a few words. Please, the path of a tycoon is dangerous. You should go home. Yeah. Inai Kaiwa nodded in agreement and explained to herself. I was going home, but I accidentally met Chong Lading on the way. He chased me all the way. It was so scary. She subconsciously patted her chest as she spoke. With her perfect body, that was comparable to Huiyudi's, patting her chest was a different kind of temptation. Linny could only turn his head away awkwardly as he watched her chest rise and fall. Fortunately, this little girl was wearing tight clothes. If her clothes were a little lighter, any man who saw this scene would definitely be aroused. Her nerves were a little too thick. Now Chong Lading definitely can't catch me. Inai Kaiwa glanced at Chong Lading, whose head was stuck in the ground, and everyone was speechless again. It was a miracle that this guy was still alive. What did he have to chase after you? So you should leave quickly. You won't be able to leave when he wakes up. Linny held his forehead. He wanted to say that he could stab Chong Lading if he wanted to, so that he wouldn't have to worry about it in the future. But looking at Inai Tsayua's expression, he knew that she wouldn't dare to do such a thing. It was useless to say that. Oh, then I have to leave quickly. Inai Kaiwa was shocked. She quickly took a few steps back with lingering fear in her heart. Suddenly, she stopped and turned around. She said with a serious face, Young hero, although you saved me, you are not allowed to take liberties with me. Everyone looked at each other again. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao couldn't help but smile. Although her imagination was a little strange, they had to admit that this Inai Kaiwa was cute and naive. I'm not teasing you. Linny was speechless. He was speechless for a long time. Then he sighed and said, Then goodbye. Okay, goodbye. Inai Kaiwa waved her hand excitedly and turned to leave in high spirits. Looking at the girl's back, Lin Yi and the others looked at each other and smiled. Wang Xinyan's lips curved in a playful smile. She's the third fairy. You have such a good opportunity to accompany her. If other men find out, they'll say that you're wasting God's gift. You won't get another opportunity like this. Yes, Master Lin. You're wasting the opportunity. Lu Xiaozhong came up and said. Then go. Linny rolled his eyes at him. I don't dare. My dad doesn't let me touch women. Besides, I can't afford it. Lu Xiaozhong scratched his head embarrassedly. Looking at Chong Lading, whose head was stuck on the ground, he knew that if he couldn't even beat this guy, Inai Kaiwa, the third fairy, could only dream about it. A toad couldn't eat swan meat. Haha, you're quite self-aware. Linny couldn't help but be amused. This Lu Xiaozhong was the same as his father Lu Dachong. Most of the time, he looked like a shameless piece of meat, but in reality, he was very perceptive. He was the type of person who knew what was best for him, and would never overestimate himself. He'd only act shamelessly when he had absolute confidence in the situation. This was a very smart way of doing things. Haha. If I didn't even have this little bit of perceptiveness, I would have been beaten to death a long time ago. Lu Xiaozhong smiled proudly. Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other speechless. This guy seemed to have forgotten that he was fighting for the Golden Soul Pill back in Thunderous City. Didn't he almost get beaten to death back then? I, little Lu, don't have that right, but you, Master Lin, do. No matter what, you're one of the 3 fairies of the Gaolin Sea region. And this Inai Kaiwa looks, how do I put it? Lu Xiaozhong tilted his head and thought for a long time. Finally, he came up with an accurate adjective. Holy shit. Lin Yi almost kicked him in the face. Gullible. Did he look like the kind of weird uncle who'd kidnap a little girl? Go do it yourself if you want to. There's no need for me to do it. Besides, so what if she's the 3rd fairy? There's already one here. Lin Yi curled his lips, annoyed. That's right, Miss Wang and Miss Hua are Master Lin's girlfriends. Lu Xiaozhong slapped his head and came back to his senses, but then he rolled his eyes and said, then all the more reason to pursue that Inai Kaiwa. In this way, 3 fairies serving one husband. Wouldn't it be a wonderful story? Lin Yi and the others were speechless. This Lu Xiaozhong wasn't just a clown. He was a fucking clown. Come to think of it, that Inai Kaiwa does look quite likable. If you're interested, Lin Yi, we won't object. Xinyan looked at Lin Yi half jokingly, half seriously. I think so too. It'd be interesting to be sisters with such a cute girl. Huang Xiaotao also chimed in. She pointed at Chang Lading, who was lying on the ground, and said, I can't bear to see her become Dao companions with such a beast and scum. Chapter 4898. Helping others is the source of happiness. If we let her go now, we might never see her again. Wang Xinyan smiled. Although she came from the common world, she was already used to Lin Yi's group of girlfriends. After all, she wasn't Lin Yi's first wife, and she wouldn't use the common world's way of thinking to restrict Lin Yi. If she didn't even have this bit of magnanimity, she wouldn't have become a profound ascending stage master today. I've never seen someone help others with something like this. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at her. Suddenly, his expression changed and he said strangely, I don't know if we can meet again in the future, but we will soon. The group was still in shock when they saw Inai Kaiwa turn back to Lin Yi from the corner of their eyes. She asked pitifully, Young warrior, can you take me out? I think I'm lost. Wah! Lin Yi and the others were stunned as they looked at Inai Kaiwa in disbelief. Lost? Although the visibility here is bad, you're still a profound ascending early stage master. How can you get lost? After all, this place wasn't completely isolated from divine sense, and it wasn't like the vast sea where you couldn't find any landmarks. Normally, as long as you paid attention, the possibility of getting lost was very small. No matter what, she was still a profound ascending early stage master. I don't really know the way. Inai Kaiwa, on the other hand, was very confident. She pouted and said, Also, I was so focused on getting rid of those people that I didn't have the time to remember the way. By the time I realized it, Chang Lading had already caught up to me. As a result, I could only run even more frantically. I don't know where I'm going. Lin Yi and the others looked at each other. It sounded reasonable, but after thinking about it carefully, they felt that this girl was simply a fake. Not to mention a profound ascending early stage master. Even a normal person would have the ability to remember the way while running. We've only met by chance. I've already helped you enough. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. He still wanted to take this opportunity to wander around the path of giants. He had no intention of going back now. After all, he could only come here once. He would never have the chance to come here again. But I really can't get out. Master said that the path of a giant is very dangerous, and told me not to walk around recklessly. After I break through to the profound ascension realm, I will quickly return. What should I do now? Inai Kaiwa was once again anxious. Everyone felt dizzy again. This girl could only see the strength of an early stage profound ascension expert when she was spinning. She was almost turning into a circle of afterimages. Maybe we should help her. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao couldn't bear to see Lin Yi like this. They turned to Lin Yi. Seeing Inai Kaiwa's pitiful look, Lin Yi honestly couldn't bear to abandon her. But he couldn't agree just like that. He thought about it and said, "Then tell me first, what does Chong Lading want to rob you of? Tell me, and I'll take you out." This. Ni Kaiwa looked at Lin Yi with a vigilant face. She suddenly took a step back and said, "You want to rob me too? If I wanted to rob you, you would have done it long ago. Why would I need to waste time with you?" Lin Yi rolled his eyes. "Maybe it's to deliberately numb me and make me lower my guard? Master said that there are sinister and cunning people everywhere. Bad people can't be trusted, and good people can't be trusted even more," Ni Kaiwa said confidently. "Hee, that's strange. It's understandable not to believe in bad people. But what do you mean by not believing in good people?" Lu Xiaozhong clicked his tongue in wonder. Lin Yi and the others also looked at each other. "Because good people have ulterior motives. Master said that there are no true good people in this world." Ni Kaiwa put on a solemn expression, but it didn't match her cute temperament at all. She looked like a child pretending to be an adult, and it was quite a funny sight. "Haha, your master's words are quite touching. Looks like you've suffered at the hands of good people before?" Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. "I don't know about that. I just do what master says," Ni Kaiwa said seriously. "So that's why your master betrothed you to that scum Chong Lading. And all you did was listen to him, only to get taken away by him?" Xingyan suddenly interrupted. "Ugh." Ni Kaiwa couldn't hold it in anymore. "I'm not married to him yet. I don't want to be his partner. He's such a bad person. That's why you can't just listen to everything your master says. You have to feel things for yourself when you meet people. Look at him. Does he look like someone with ulterior motives?" Wang Xingyan pointed at Lin Yi with a smile. Ni Kaiwa looked Lin Yi up and down again, making Lin Yi feel uncomfortable. He coughed awkwardly. "Doesn't look like it," Ni Kaiwa finally concluded, but before Lin Yi could get happy she added, "What if he's a bad person?" Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lu Xiaozhong laughed and said, "If Master Lin is a bad person who hides his true nature, then are you trying to say that your cultivation partner is actually a good person who hides his true nature?" "Of course not. How could he be a good person when he's so mean?" Ni Kaiwa pouted. "But Lin Yi wasn't mean to you at all. And he even helped you out. Why are you saying he's a bad person?" Huang Xiaotao said on Lin Yi's behalf. "Well," Ni Kaiwa tilted her head and thought about it for a long time, looking Lin Yi up and down again. "I don't think he's a bad person either. He's a good person, I guess." Lin Yi wanted to cry at that point. He'd fallen for a bad person all of a sudden, and he hadn't even been cleared of suspicion yet. How could he be considered a good person? Was he really that reluctant? Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao tried to stifle their laughter as they looked at Lin Yi helplessly. Their eyes conveyed the same message. "This is as far as I can help you. All right, now do you believe that I won't rob you?" Lin Yi shrugged helplessly. "Yeah, I guess I can believe you." Ni Kaiwa said, "All right then, I'll tell you what it is, it's this." As she spoke, Ni Kaiwa took out a long and narrow wooden box from the bag she was carrying on her back. After opening it, there was a stock of spiritual medicine inside. Chapter 4899. Lin Yi looked at it carefully, but he didn't recognize it. As an alchemist, his knowledge of all kinds of herbs was far above a normal person's, and he'd read a lot of books on herbs when he was training. But this was the East Continent, after all, and many of the treasures were unique to the East Continent. Even if they appeared, they'd only be digested within the East Continent, and not many people outside the island knew about them. But just because Lin Yi didn't recognize it didn't mean the others didn't. "It's the Xian raising grass," Xingyan blurted out after a few glances. Yes. My dad got this before too. Just like the golden demon raising grass. It's miraculous for profound ascension practitioners." Lu Xiaozhong jumped up as well. "Xian raising grass?" Lin Yi reacted as well. He didn't recognize it right away, but he'd seen this name before. The golden demon raising grass could be made into a qi raising pill, and this Xian raising grass could be made into a profound raising pill. The effects of these two pills were almost the same, able to raise a person's strength by one level, but the former was only effective for nascent soul practitioners, while the latter was effective for profound ascension practitioners. Lin Yi and the others had just reached profound ascension early phase, and they didn't expect to run into the Xian raising grass so abruptly. One could only imagine how tempting it was. No wonder Chang Lading was willing to take his partner for this. Enai Kaiwa was a little scared when she saw how excited Lin Yi and the others were, and she quickly put away the Xian raising grass and took a few steps back. Didn't we just agree? Don't take it from me. Lin Yi scratched his head when he saw the look on her face, as if she'd run into a gangster. Did he really look like a bad guy? No one's trying to take it from you, so don't worry. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he shook his head. But if you want me to take you out, you'll have to pay a price. That's fine, right? Ah. Enai Kaiwa took another step back, hugging the wooden box tightly. You said you don't want my Xian raising grass? You really are a bad person who hides your true nature. Hey, when did I say I was going to snatch your profound nurturing grass? Lin Yi shrugged helplessly. Didn't you want to snatch the profound nurturing grass? Enai Kaiwa tilted her head. Suddenly, she rolled her eyes and said something shocking. Are you going to rob me? That won't do. I will not be your concubine. Mistress. Everyone fainted at the same time. This girl's imagination was really strange. How did they connect her with a concubine? Of course, you have these two sisters as your wives. Don't you want me to be your concubine? Enai Kaiwa had an expression of having seen through everything. Who said I'm going to steal you and make you my concubine? Lin Yi was about to collapse. If he continued to talk to this girl, he suspected that he would really be a well-hidden bad person. He could only say directly, the price I'm talking about is very simple. As long as you tell me where you picked this profound nurturing grass. So you don't want to rob me? That's good, that's good. Enai Kaiwa patted her chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Yi could only look away again. After waiting for a moment, he heard the girl say hesitantly, but Master said that this location is top secret. It must not be revealed to outsiders. Then there's nothing to discuss. You can go back by yourself. We still have to continue exploring. Lin Yi immediately waved his hand indifferently. Wait. Enai Kaiwa looked at Lin Yi pitifully and said hesitantly, if you don't take me, I can't go out alone. That can't be helped. You can only stay on this road for a month at most, and you can't come back after that. We'll waste a lot of time if we take you out now, and it'll be a huge loss. We have to compensate you, don't you think? Lin Yi tried to reason with her. Enai Kaiwa was still hesitant. Take your time to think about it. We can still afford to wait. However, I'm not sure about the one with his head on the ground. If he wakes up again, I may not help you deal with him. After all, you can't do it more than 3 times. Lin Yi pointed at Chang Lading on the ground. Don't. Enai Kaiwa was shocked. She was so anxious that she finally patted her head and said, right, my master said that I can't give the map to others. However, he didn't say that I can't take people there personally. As long as I take you there, won't it be the best of both worlds? I'm so smart. Lin Yi and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If this was considered smart, then what were they? Were their IQs through the sky? But no matter what, since this girl was willing to lead the way personally, it was naturally a good thing. Everyone wanted the Xian cultivating grass, and Lin Yi was no exception. After the two sides agreed, Lin Yi and the others immediately brought Enai Kaiwa to the main road. This girl could only find the treasure land that produced the Xian cultivating grass after returning to the main road. With the range of Lin Yi's divine sense, it was easy to find the main road after identifying the direction. The next thing to do was to follow Enai Kaiwa to an extremely secluded place. The road was full of twists and turns. If there was no map, not to mention Enai Kaiwa, even Lin Yi and the others would probably get dizzy. At this time, they had already reached the depths of the Path of Giants. Along the way, it was difficult to see any traces of disciples from other schools. There were not many who could successfully advance to mysterious ascension, and even fewer who dared to explore this place. Not to mention that this place was so secluded. A day later, Enai Kaiwa finally brought everyone to their destination. In front of them was a deep crater. Mist shrouded the area, and even Lin Yi couldn't get a full view of the crater. This is where we obtained the Xian cultivating grass? Lin Yi frowned. This basin gave him a dangerous feeling. But then again, the more valuable a place was, the more dangerous it was. This was common sense in the world of practitioners, and it'd be strange if they could get such treasures without any risk at all. No, we can't go in here. This is the Thunder Burial Ground. Inaikaiwa shook her head. Thunder Burial Ground? Lin Yi and the others were stunned. Yes, it is said that anyone who steps in will be buried by the Thunder Burial Ground. Inaikaiwa nodded. There's such a thing. Lin Yi and the others looked at each other. They all thought that the Thunder Burial Ground would only appear at specific times. They didn't expect there to be a Thunder Burial Ground. Chapter 4900. If that's the case, how did you get the spirit-nurturing grass? Did you take the risk to jump in and pick it up? Lin Yi and the others asked curiously. How is that possible? I was actually lucky to find the spirit-nurturing grass at the edge of this basin. Otherwise, I wouldn't have found it anywhere else. Inaikaiwa shook her head and added, my master told me that the mystic nurturing grass is an extremely rare elixir. Even in the Thunder Burial Basin, it's not common and it's hard to find. Linny couldn't help but frown after hearing that. He stared at the basin in front of him speechlessly. It's here. But the legendary lightning burial ground was a little scary. Previously, the president of the Alliance had said that no one would be able to survive the Thunder Burial. Although it was unknown if he was only referring to the Academy's disciples, or if it included existences at his level, one thing was for sure. The Thunder Burial was definitely not a trivial matter. It was far from being comparable to an ordinary thunder tribulation. Even the lightning tribulation that he experienced before couldn't be compared to it. Even with Lin Yi's current strength, he wasn't confident that he could come out after entering the lightning burial ground. Seeing that everyone was silent, Inaikaiwa suddenly said, I've brought you to the place. I'm going back now. Go ahead. Lin Yi nodded and gestured for her to walk slowly. Goodbye then, good guy who hides himself well. Inaikaiwa stuck out her tongue and skipped away excitedly. A good guy is a good guy. What do you mean by good guy? Lin Yi curled his lips as he watched the girl leave. Be content. It's good enough that she thinks of you as a good guy. It's better than a bad guy who hides himself well. Wang Xingyan smiled. Huang Xiaotao and Lu Xiaozhong giggled at the side. All right, does that mean that I've profited? Lin Yi smiled awkwardly and pointed at the basin. It's rare that I'm here. I want to go down and take a look. I won't have the chance to do so anymore. What? But this is the lightning burial ground. You'll die if you go in. Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao were shocked. The mystic nurturing grass was good, but it couldn't compare to their lives. I have already made up my mind. Don't try to persuade me anymore. This place is indeed a place of certain death for all of you. However, I should be able to make it. Even if I really cannot make it through the lightning burial, I should be able to make it back. I won't die in there, said Lin Yi with a firm attitude. Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other, and finally nodded reluctantly. All right, but don't try to be brave. Get out if you see something's wrong, and don't hesitate. Something like the mystic raising grass is a blessing, and it's my fate if I don't get it. Of course, they weren't willing to let Lin Yi enter this extremely dangerous lightning burial ground. Let alone a few xian nurturing grass. Even if there were 10,000 xian nurturing grass beneath his feet, they still wouldn't let Lin Yi take the slightest risk. However, they knew Lin Yi's personality. Even though he was usually easy to negotiate, once he had made up his mind, he would never go back on his word. Don't worry. My life is very precious. I won't give it up for a few xian nurturing grass. Lin Yi gave them a reassuring look, and then said, While I'm down there, you guys can look around. If you're lucky, you might be able to get a few xian nurturing grass like that chicken I did. However, be careful, there might be dangers around here. Alright, remember to be very, 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 very careful. If you see any danger, come back immediately. Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao reminded him worriedly again. Got it. Although it sounded long-winded, Lin Yi still felt warm inside. If it was someone else, they wouldn't have been so patient with him. Lin Yi was about to jump into the basin, but before he could get up, the ghost's voice suddenly sounded in his head. Wait! What? Lin Yi was shocked. If even the ghost had to stop him, then he really had to reconsider whether he should go or not. Wang Xinyan and the others didn't know about the 8 compound spirit roots in his body, but the ghost knew everything clearly. Moreover, with its experience, it could clearly judge whether he could withstand such a dangerous situation. If it said no, then it basically couldn't. Going would only be courting death. This place seems to be the legendary Thunder Burial City, the ghost suddenly said after a moment of silence. What do you mean? Lin Yi was slightly shocked. Enai Kaiwe only said that there was a Thunder Burial City here. But what the hell was this Thunder Burial City? This should be the Thunder Burial City. The ghost carefully observed for a while before it finally confirmed and explained. This is also a secret rumor among the spiritual beasts. You humans rarely know about it. If I'm not wrong, this place is the final resting place of those powerful lightning-type spiritual beasts. Final resting place? Lin Yi was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Does that mean this is the graveyard of the lightning-type spiritual beasts? That's right. Do you know that there are also lightning dragons in our dragon branch? The ghost said. Lightning dragons? Never heard of it. Lin Yi shook his head. Aside from this green dragon, he had seen many different kinds of dragons, from the 5 malevolent dragons in the mortal world, to the 5 poison serpent dragons in the 5 poison swamp, and then the sea dragons, which belong to the sea beasts. He'd never heard of this lightning dragon. The bloodline of lightning dragons isn't pure. They're actually the offspring of lightning eagles and us dragons, but they're also listed in our genealogy, so I know a little bit about them. Let me think about it. The ghost smiled. All right. Lin Yi nodded, but couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. It was true that dragons were lustful by nature, as if they could get together with any kind of life form. What was even more ridiculous was that they were able to overcome the natural barrier of reproductive isolation and create all kinds of hybrids. Legend had it that serpents were the hybrids of dragons and snakes, sea dragons were the hybrids of dragons and sea beasts, and lightning dragons were the hybrids of dragons and lightning eagles. As for the 5 malevolent dragons, Lin Yi didn't even dare imagine what kind of evil they'd done to them. The variety of relationships they had was truly amazing. Xinyan and the others couldn't help but find it strange that Lin Yi didn't understand what was going on. They looked at each other, thinking that he was observing the basin below them. They didn't disturb him, choosing to stay by his side quietly. Chapter 4901. As long as he had seen or heard of it before, he would be able to recreate it flawlessly with just a bit of time. How is it? Lin Yi quickly asked. This is the information left behind by a thunder dragon during the dragon tribe gathering. It mentioned this Thunder Burial City. According to him, the so-called Thunder Burial is actually the highest standard death ritual for powerful thunder element spiritual beasts. The ghostly thing said, the Thunder Burial is actually a death ritual? Lin Yi was shocked. When he heard the Alliance leader's alarmist description, he thought the Thunder Burial was actually a natural disaster unique to Thunderous Plain Island, similar to a tsunami or an earthquake. He did not expect it to be a death ritual. That's right. The Thunder Burial that outsiders see actually originates from this Thunder Burial City, although it will sometimes affect the outer regions, causing the power of the thunder tribulations outside to suddenly increase. It's actually not the real Thunder Burial. It's just a reaction to the surroundings caused by the Thunder Burial. It's just like how every time there's a typhoon in the secular world, it'll be accompanied by wind and rain, the ghostly thing explained. In that case, compared to the real Thunder Burial, this is nothing, Lin Yi said thoughtfully. Of course, the real Thunder Burial is only limited to this Thunder Burial City. It won't cover the entire Thunderous Plain Island. Of course, for ordinary human cultivators like you, even the thunder tribulations that suddenly become stronger after being affected are deadly. It doesn't make a difference whether it's a Thunder Burial or not, the ghostly thing said. Senior, do you know how the Thunder Burial comes about? Lin Yi asked again. Since it was a death ritual, there must be a leader, just like the Sky Burial in the secular world. Although the process was simple, someone had to bring the corpse to a specific location and attract ferocious beasts like eagles. It's said that all thunder element spiritual beasts will enter the thunder burial city on their own before they die, and trigger the thunder tribulations to carry out the thunder burial. They'll die together with the strongest thunder element spiritual beasts. That's their ideal destination, the ghostly thing said with a sigh. In that case, I really can't go in? If we go in, we might be struck to death. Linny could not help but hesitate. Although he had condensed an unprecedented 8 compound spirit roots, especially the lightning strike that was comparable to a minor thunder tribulation, which had greatly boosted his confidence, it was not to the point where he was not afraid of the thunder burial. With Lin Yi's current strength, he could easily deal with the normal thunder tribulation. He could even withstand a thunder tribulation that was 10 times stronger than the thunder tribulation without a frown. However, who knew how powerful the thunder burial was? What if it far exceeded the upper limit of what he could bear? You're right, but you can go in and take a look. I've never been to Thunder Burial City before. Don't you want to take a look at the graveyard of a thunder-type spirit beast? Maybe there will be an unexpected harvest. The ghostly thing instigated. Hearing this, Lin Yi's heart warmed. Putting aside the mysterious nurturing grass, since there were so many corpses of powerful thunder-type spiritual beasts gathered here, he reckoned that he would be able to obtain many good things from them. This temptation was only greater than the mysterious nurturing grass. But what if I die in there? What should I do? At least Lin Yi did not get carried away. Benefits and risks were always proportional. The more good things there were, the more dangerous it was. This was something that could be easily understood. I don't think so. The biggest threat in there should be the thunder burial. However, you have the thunder type, so your resistance to thunder and lightning should be similar to that of a thunder-type spiritual beast. In fact, ordinary thunder-type spiritual beasts might not even be able to compare to you. After all, you have an 8 compound spirit root that dominates the thunder type. The ghostly thing sighed. That's true. Lin Yi recalled the scene when he was struck by the lightning eagle. He was completely fine after being struck by its lightning. He reckoned that the other lightning eagles were no better than him. When the time comes, you can just run away. You're so fast that ordinary things won't be able to catch up to you. No matter how powerful the thunder burial is, you'll be able to escape after taking a few hits. You won't lose your life. The ghostly thing continued to persuade him. All right, they say that curiosity kills the cat. Senior, your curiosity is really strong. You came up with so many reasons just to let me go in and take a look. It must have been hard on you, Senior. Lin Yi complained in his heart. Hee, there's nothing too strange in this world. How can I not see such a good opportunity? Besides, I won't hurt you. If you die, I'll die with you. The ghostly thing curled its lips. I didn't know that you were an explorer, Senior. Lin Yi chuckled. Actually, Lin Yi could tell from the fact that this ghostly thing had descended into the secular world at the risk of its soul being destroyed, in order to search for the bloodline of the spiritual beast king. This fellow was a man of action, and was extremely bold. This lightning burial ground was probably nothing in his eyes. Lin Yi nodded at Wang Xinyan and the others. Then he gritted his teeth and jumped down. His figure quickly disappeared into the thick fog, leaving no traces behind. This place gives me a very bad feeling. I hope nothing happens to him. Wang Xinyan said worriedly as she looked at where Lin Yi had disappeared. Wang Xinyan said worriedly as she looked at where Lin Yi had disappeared. Her practitioner's arts were inherited from the Eastern Sea Divine Nun, and her premonitions had always been very accurate. However, she didn't know much about divination or anything like that, and her intuition alone wasn't enough to convince Lin Yi. Yeah, I think it's weird too. My instincts tell me that it's very dangerous inside. Although Huang Xiaotao had only joined the sect for a short time, she was very experienced in various trials. Her instincts were very accurate as well. You don't have to worry so much. This is Master Lin we're talking about. He's no ordinary person. He'll be fine. Let's go find the profound nurturing grass. Lu Xiaozhong comforted them loudly. Then, he impatiently went to find the profound nurturing grass. It was something he dreamed of. However, he became dumbfounded after taking 2 steps. He turned around and asked weakly, "What does the profound nurturing grass look like?" Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao were amused. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you see Enite Sayua's grass before? Did you forget it already? To be honest, little Lu, I'm actually a grass blind. Lu Xiaozhong scratched his head pitifully. Grass blind. Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other stunned. It means that I can't tell the difference at all. Most of them are like weeds in my eyes. There's basically no difference. My dad is the same. That's why we buy all the herbs in our house. We rarely pick them ourselves. Otherwise, even if we did, they'd all be weeds. I've done this a lot in the past. Lu Xiaozhong said bitterly. Chapter 4902. It was the first time they'd heard of someone like that. This father and son pair were really funny. No wonder Lu Xiaozhong didn't want to pick the herbs on his own, and instead took the initiative to carry their bags. He was an idiot. All right then, you can come with us. Remember their characteristics, and bring them to us when you find something similar. Let's go. Wang Xingyan smiled, and took one last look at the place, where Linny had jumped before taking the lead to try their luck. Linny had been falling for a while before he finally touched the ground. The basin was a lot deeper than he'd expected, and if he hadn't used his pure energy at the last moment to reduce the force of the fall, he'd probably have been injured when he hit the ground. Linny studied his surroundings cautiously. The mist from above didn't lessen at all, but it got thicker instead. It was a complete blur, and he couldn't see anything clearly. What was worse was that he couldn't sense anything with his consciousness. Senior, Linny quickly asked the ghostly thing for help. This place was full of danger, and if he couldn't figure out his surroundings, he'd be courting death. In terms of divine sense, the ghostly thing was a top-notch existence on the heavenly stage island. It had always been successful, but this time, it said in a serious tone. It's really strange. This place can even block my divine sense. What? Linny jumped in shock. Even you can't sense it, Senior? How is that possible? It's incredible. The legendary Thunder Burial City is really strange, the ghostly thing said. What do we do now? Linny looked at the haze in front of him, his hair standing on end. He couldn't even sense what was going on, and this place was undoubtedly a land of death for him. He wouldn't be able to bear the consequences if anything were to happen. Forget it, let's go back. We shouldn't stay here for long, the ghostly thing said. It would have given it a good try if it was at its peak, but it was only a primordial spirit right now. It wouldn't be able to protect Lin E if some powerful existence appeared. All right. Upon hearing this, Linny retreated without hesitation. Even that ghostly thing had said so. He couldn't stay here for even a moment, or his life might be in danger. However, before Linny could take 2 steps back, he felt a chill in his heart. His back was actually empty. One had to know that he had jumped down from the cliff. According to his previous plan, if there was an accident, he would just climb back. Anyway, it was a piece of cake for him. However, at this moment, he was shocked to find that there was no cliff behind him at all. Alarmed, Linny retreated another 100 feet in disbelief. Still nothing. How is this possible? Linny suddenly had an idea. At this time, he could not see far with his eyes, and he could not sense with his divine sense, but he had other ways to determine the location. Linny immediately picked up a stone from the side of his feet and threw it into the distance. This way, he could make a sound, and he wouldn't immediately expose his position and attract killing intent. He wanted to judge his surroundings through the sound. Pa! The stone collided with another stone in the distance, making a crisp sound. However, the result made Lin Yi's heart cold again. There was no echo. No echo meant that this place was very empty, which meant that there was no cliff nearby at all. Lin Yi suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. At this time, he felt simply creepy. This place was really too strange. It was full of fog, and his divine sense was blocked. The most outrageous thing was that even the cliff behind him had disappeared without a trace. Even the ghostly thing could not sense it. It was so strange that it was a complete mess. Array! There must be an array here. An idea suddenly emerged in Lin Yi's mind. All this could only be explained by an array. If there was no array, it was impossible that he could not retreat to the edge. Maybe. The ghostly thing was not very sure. Its knowledge was far greater than Lin Yi's. Everything in front of it could indeed be explained by an array. However, there was actually an array in the world that could be so profound that it could not see any clues. This was a bit too unbelievable. "Senior, what should we do now?" Lin Yi asked hurriedly. He was a very opinionated person, but this situation was something he'd never seen or heard of before. If he couldn't find a way out, it was basically impossible for him to leave this place. If it is an array, then we must find the array eye to have a chance to break it. In this situation, we can only look for it. The ghostly thing said in a dignified tone. Well, that's the only way. Although his intuition was very bad, Lin Yi had no other choice. He could only bite the bullet and start to explore the surroundings. Even if he could not find the so-called array eye in a short time, he at least had to figure out the situation here first. No matter what happened, he must be mentally prepared. However, before Lin Yi could take 2 steps, lightning suddenly flashed and thunder roared above his head. Because of the heavy fog, even if it was not to say that he could not see his fingers in front of him, the visibility was pitifully poor. What was above his head could not be seen at all. However, at this moment, accompanied by the loud thunder, the incomparably powerful lightning pierced through the fog and cut through the sky, allowing Lin Yi to see clearly. Seeing this, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This lightning was no longer just dark blue, but close to purple. Ever since he received the inheritance of thunder and lightning from the giant electric eel, he had a very clear understanding of the power of thunder and lightning. Ordinary lightning was light blue, and the stronger lightning tribulation was pure blue. And the lightning tribulation that he had experienced before was close to 10 times dark blue. The power of purple lightning was far above dark blue. It must be known that with the giant electric eel's strength beyond the sea-splitting stage, except for its strongest killing move, the black heavenly punishment, ordinary lightning strikes were only dark purple. Although the lightning above his head was not dark purple, but only close purple, it had already scared Lin Yi. He had seen the giant electric eel directly kill several sea-splitting stage spirit beasts with a dark purple lightning strike. Even if it seemed to be a sneak attack at that time, being able to kill with one blow was enough to reflect its terrifying power. A dark purple lightning strike could kill a sea-splitting stage spirit beast. Even if this close purple lightning was not as good, it should be able to kill a mere profound ascending stage early stage Lin Yi, right? This was much more powerful than the lightning tribulation. Under the shock, Lin Yi did not have time to carefully observe the surrounding environment. He immediately used the super butterfly microstep and did not hesitate to turn around and run. Chapter 4903. But don't forget, Lin Yi was not an ordinary person. He was a person with a powerful thunder attribute. In this place, he was a living lightning rod. He had a hunch that the purple lightning above his head would most likely come for him. Instead of staying and waiting for death, it was better to take the risk to escape. Even if he provoked other dangerous existences in the process, it was much better than being struck by the lightning above his head. With Lin Yi's current strength, the super butterfly microsteps was much faster than before. In the eyes of ordinary people, it was no different from teleportation. But no matter how he ran, the purple lightning was always hovering above his head. Lin Yi was so scared that his heart suddenly trembled. He could only continue to run with all his might. He even used the super butterfly microsteps, which was his trump card. But it was useless. No matter how fast he was, it was impossible to be faster than the purple lightning above his head. It seemed that it had really locked onto him. Ever since he gained the lightning element, Lin Yi had always been happy about it. Especially this time, when the lightning element led the fusion and created an unprecedented compound 8 spiritual roots. Lin Yi couldn't contain his joy. But now he really had a headache. The lightning element was strong, but this lightning rod was a problem that could take his life. Sure enough, everything had its pros and cons. It was really a fool's dream to think that one person could have all the good things. Boom! Accompanied by a loud noise, the purple lightning hovering above finally struck down. Without any deviation, it hit right on the top of Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi was directly struck on the spot. His whole body twitched and struggled as if he was frozen. His whole body was emitting shocking electric arcs. If someone looked carefully at the side, they would find that he had been electrocuted into the air. He was purely held in the air by the lightning. Ordinary thunder punishment could not hurt Lin Yi at all. Even if it was 10 times the thunder punishment, he could still grit his teeth and endure it. But now, this purple lightning almost shattered his soul, because the power of this lightning was at least 50 times the thunder punishment. Damn it! Lin Yi roared in pain, and almost fainted on the spot. Fortunately, he managed to retain a bit of consciousness in the end. Otherwise, if he fainted, he would have died without a doubt. With a powerful lightning attribute in his body, Lin Yi could be said to be an extra-large human-shaped battery. Not only could he discharge electricity, he could also store electricity. He could directly absorb normal lightning tribulations. But now, he was facing a lightning tribulation that was 50 times stronger than normal. This was far beyond the upper limit that he could endure. Not to mention that he was a living person. Even if he was really a battery, he would probably explode on the spot. In an instant, Lin Yi was only an inch away from death. However, it was fortunate that after being in a daze for a while, Lin Yi realized that he had actually managed to pull through. Although his body was filled with the extremely dangerous power of thunder and lightning, it was fortunate that the power of thunder and lightning did not scatter everywhere. Instead, it was absorbed around the 8 compound spirit roots that were mainly of the thunder attribute. Otherwise, even if he had 10 lives, he would not be able to survive it. This feeling was as if there was a powerful bomb buried in his body. Once it exploded, he would be smashed into pieces. However, it was fortunate that this was a time bomb. As long as he did not touch it, there was still a little time to defuse the bomb. The enormous power of thunder and lightning in Lin Yi's body was restless. The only thing he could do now was to quickly refine it before it went out of control. This was because this had far exceeded the upper limit that Lin Yi could endure. Therefore, the entire process became extremely difficult. Every time he refined it, he felt as if his dantian and meridians were about to explode. If he did not have a strong willpower that far exceeded that of an ordinary person, not to mention holding on to completely refine the power of thunder and lightning, even maintaining the last bit of consciousness would be an extravagant dream. However, fortunately, Lin Yi managed to miraculously hold on. Feeling the unprecedented and surging power of thunder and lightning in his body, Lin Yi smiled bitterly with lingering fear. Right now, his entire body was about to collapse from exhaustion. Because his clothes were constantly soaked in cold sweat, they were wet, dry, and wet again. At this moment, they were wrinkled and extremely uncomfortable. If it was not for the unfathomable danger in this place, Lin Yi would definitely take a bath and change his clothes. After all, this was really too uncomfortable. Fortunately, this was Lin Yi. If it was anyone else, they would have long since been struck until not even ashes were left. Even experiencing the feeling of discomfort was an extravagant dream. However, this suffering was not in vain. After surviving a great disaster, there was bound to be good fortune. Not only did he manage to keep his life, the power of thunder and lightning in his body became several times stronger. Although only a small part of it had been completely refined by Lin Yi, the rest could only be regarded as temporary taming. Just like the lightning strike that was comparable to a small lightning tribulation, it was a one-time consumable. Once it was used up, it would be gone. Only the small part that had been completely refined by him could be integrated into his spiritual root and grow endlessly. But even so, this time, Lin Yi had gained a lot. The process was a little dangerous, but the result was still satisfactory. Senior, did you feel that the lightning just now was a little strange? Lin Yi asked as he recovered. Why is it strange? The ghostly thing was puzzled. Although its knowledge was far greater than Lin Yi's, after all, it did not personally come into contact with that purple lightning. The clues that Lin Yi could feel, it might not be able to. I have received the inheritance of the giant electric eel and experienced the lightning tribulation. After thinking about it carefully, I found that although the two are both powerful lightning, there is actually an essential difference. Lin Yi frowned and muttered, "Oh, tell me more about it." The ghostly thing asked. Not only is there a difference in the strength of the lightning, but more importantly, the thoughts contained in it are completely different. Linny carefully thought about it and analyzed. The lightning tribulation is the power of heaven and earth, so it is completely cold and has no emotions to speak of. But the giant electric eel is different. Its lightning seems to have some kind of emotional color. There is such a thing. This time even the ghostly thing was shocked. It was not because of this discovery of Lin Yi, but because of Lin Yi's keen insight. Because he was not good at lightning, he did not know much about it. But one thing was clear. This kind of thing was not something that ordinary people could detect. He had a strong willpower, keen insight, and a tenacious mind that remained calm in the face of danger. Not only did this kid have an unparalleled innate talent like the spirit root, even these hidden innate talents were terrifyingly strong. It was really not luck that he was able to achieve what he had today. Chapter 4904. You're saying that the lightning just now. The ghostly being could not help but gasp. It's not natural. Instead, it carries some kind of emotion, just like the giant electric eel. This discovery was too shocking. Even Lin Yi had to take deep breaths to calm himself down. When he first thought about it, his heart almost jumped out of his chest. In other words, there's a mastermind behind the purple lightning? The ghostly being pondered for a moment before it analyzed. It's unlikely for ordinary human cultivators to enter this place. That means it must be a lightning-type spirit beast. Not just any lightning-type spirit beast can produce such a powerful lightning. Only those that stand at the peak of the lightning type, such as the thunder dragon or the lightning eagle, can do it. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. This was Thunder Burial City. Only powerful lightning-type spirit beasts could appear here. Although he had been struck by the lightning eagle once before, and was not as powerful as it was just now, there was still a difference in strength between the lightning eagles. If it was the strongest lightning eagle, it might even be able to compete with the giant electric eel. After all, they were already top-tier lightning-type spirit beasts. It was not surprising for them to be able to produce lightning that was close to purple. Of course, it could also be the thunder dragon or other top-tier lightning-type spirit beasts. With their powerful racial talents, it was normal for them to reach this level. Could it be that I barged in recklessly and disrupted its death ritual? Is that why it's angry at me? Lin Yi suddenly thought of this possibility. At the same time, he was shocked. This was Thunder Burial City. There could only be one reason why those powerful lightning-type spirit beasts would appear here, and that was to carry out a thunder burial. Hee, if that's the case, then you've really drawn the best lot, the ghostly being said with a smile. Best lot? I should have drawn the worst lot. Great, it was just about to prepare for a thunder burial, but I barged in. It's obvious that I'm begging it to bury me together with it. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Even at a time like this, it was still in the mood to joke. He really had to give in to this ghostly being. That's not necessarily true. The thunder burial is a very sacred death ritual for a thunder-type spirit beast. It can't tolerate any blasphemy. Therefore, I reckon that before it gets rid of an outsider like you, it won't rashly activate the thunder burial. The ghostly thing said disapprovingly. Oh, that's good. Lin Yi subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief, but then he reacted. Good my ass. Even if the other party didn't carry out the lightning burial immediately, they would still deal with him at all costs. With the power of the lightning just now, he would die no matter what. Hee, no matter what. You should find a way out of here before the other party launches another attack. Otherwise, both of us will be buried here, the ghostly thing said. Yes. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't have the time to think so much, and immediately began to feel his way forward. If he was lucky, he might be able to find the array eye or a way out. Although the chances were very slim, he could only try it as a last resort in this situation. He carefully felt his way forward. To his surprise, there was no lightning this time. Although he was glad, Lin Yi didn't dare to let his guard down. This was clearly the calm before the storm. Senior, do you feel it? Lin Yi asked the ghostly thing. I feel it. It seems that your speculation was right. The entire space around us is filled with a strong resentment, the ghostly thing muttered. What? The entire space? Lenny was shocked. He only faintly felt that it was very strange. This resentment was like some kind of existence that was embarrassed into anger. He didn't think that this resentment could actually fill the entire space. Yes, although my divine sense is blocked, my intuition has never been wrong. This resentment is somewhat unbelievably strong. The ghostly thing's tone was dignified and thoughtful. In that case, the thing that's targeting us should be a very heaven-defying thunder spirit beast? Could it be the thunder dragon of your dragon clan? Senior, you might be able to make friends with it? Lin Yi's eyes lit up. When it came to the most powerful thunder spirit beast, the lightning eagle would probably be ranked behind the thunder dragon. If it really was a thunder dragon, with the ghostly thing's identity as the former azure dragon, they might be able to sit down and have a talk. Boy, don't hold on to this kind of luck. Hurry up and find a way to escape. This feeling, this aura doesn't feel like a thunder dragon at all. Even if it is, I have no friendship with it. How can I be related? The ghostly thing curled its lips disapprovingly. All right. In fact, Linny also knew that this idea was not reliable, so he didn't stop and sped up his pace. However, the visibility in this place was too low. It was foggy and he couldn't see anything. He couldn't sense anything with his divine sense either. Linny could only rely on his feet to explore the surrounding environment. At this time, Linny was no longer in the mood to look for the spirit-nurturing grass. No matter how good a treasure was, he needed to be alive to enjoy it. Treasures like the spirit-nurturing grass would have to wait until he was sure that he could escape. In the process of constantly exploring, Linny was suddenly shocked. He didn't need the warning from the jade pendant to know that a powerful lightning had gathered above his head. Linny only needed to raise his head to take a look, and he was shocked. The lightning was almost purple before, but this time it was completely purple. This meant that the lightning above his head was even more powerful than before. Moreover, Linny clearly felt that with the appearance of this purple lightning, the resentment that permeated the surroundings seemed to have become a little more comfortable at this moment. It was as if it was using this purple lightning to vent its anger. Boom! The purple lightning didn't hover for too long like the last time. Before Linny could react, it had already struck down. Without any suspense, Linny was once again struck in the air. His whole body twitched and trembled like a sieve. The purple lightning just now had already made Linny suffer enough. And this purple lightning, even if Linny had some experience, he couldn't completely bear it. This was no longer simple pain, but endless torture. If this continued, even if his willpower could withstand it, his body would definitely not be able to. After all, he was only a mysterious ascension early-stage master. The power of thunder and lightning that he could withstand was extremely limited. Any more and he would die. Chapter 4905. There was no time to think about it. As soon as this idea came to mind, Linny immediately put it into action. He endured the pain, gritted his teeth, and mobilized the power of thunder and lightning that he had gathered around his spiritual root, pouring it out in the form of a lightning strike. Boom! There was a sudden explosion, and the dark blue lightning and the purple lightning collided head-on. Incomparably thick electric arcs instantly scattered in all directions, and it was a magnificent scene of thunder and lightning blooming in the air. Although this sudden inspiration did not allow Lin Yi to get out of the predicament, unexpectedly, it successfully offset a part of the purple lightning. At the same time, because of this electric discharge, his physical body, which had already reached its limit, also got a chance to breathe. At least there was space for him to refine the purple lightning. Huff huff. Linny half knelt on the ground, sweating profusely. He panted heavily, and there were traces of electric burns all over his body. Fortunately, they were not fatal injuries. It was really lucky that he could survive this time. Hee, you are really daring. You can even think of this kind of method. Aren't you afraid that after your lightning is assimilated by the purple lightning, it will turn against you? This time, even the ghostly thing had a lingering fear in its heart. Lightning could absorb each other. Although Lin Yi's lightning strike had exceeded his usual level, it was still much weaker than the purple lightning. It was very normal for it to be assimilated. However, from the result, It seemed that Lin Yi had obviously won the gamble. How can I think so much in a hurry? Lin Yi was also afraid when he thought of this possibility, but he quickly guessed the reason. He rejoiced and said, "It seems that my speculation just now is really right. There is another master behind this purple lightning." "What do you mean?" the ghostly thing asked in confusion. "If this is an emotionless lightning, then my lightning strike is very likely to be assimilated by it, because my thoughts are nothing in the face of the pressure of heaven and earth. However, if it is not a lightning strike, but a lightning strike with the thoughts of someone, then everyone is working for their own master, and it is normal for them to cancel each other out." Lin Yi speculated. "That makes sense. However, this is just your own speculation. It's mostly a gamble with your life. Kid, your courage is truly frightening." The ghostly thing sighed. "It can't be helped. If we don't bet our lives now, we might not have the chance to do so again." Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Fortunately, you won the bet. Otherwise, even I would have to die with you. That would be a great loss. TSK, 2 lives in one body." The ghost pursed its lips and pretended to complain. "Speaking of which, is this how you use 2 lives in one body?" Lin Yi did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was clearly this guy who had instigated him to come here, and now he had the cheek to complain about him. He really did not know what to say. However, he also knew that this ghostly thing was purely joking. Back then, this guy had abandoned his position as the dignified Azure Dragon Elder and thought of ways to run to the secular world. In the end, he ended up like this. But even so, he had never heard the word regret from him. To put it bluntly, this ghostly thing was a carefree and willful lord. It dared to do anything but regretting it? The word probably did not exist in its dictionary. As the two of them spoke, the massive resentment in the surroundings suddenly became even more intense. If it was just resentment before, then this feeling had now become a vicious curse. After Lin Yi noticed it, he was shocked. He really did not expect that he had worked so hard to withstand the 2 lightning bolts. Not only did he not get through the crisis, but it seemed that this was just the beginning. When did he become so hateful? Kid, you have always attracted hatred. Everywhere you go, you have enemies. Everyone comes to find trouble with you. Aren't you used to it? The ghostly thing did not miss the opportunity to complain. Senior, can you be more serious? It seems that there will be more lightning bolts coming, and they will be stronger than the 2 just now. If I can't withstand it, we will really die in this damn place. Lin Yi smiled helplessly. It's okay. Didn't you find a way to deal with it just now? I'm optimistic about you. You won't die. The ghostly thing laughed disapprovingly. It had more confidence in Lin Yi than Lin Yi himself. Even at this time, it still had the mood to joke. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. Although the method that he came up with in a hurry did work, who knew how strong the next lightning would be? What if it couldn't withstand it? In any case, this place must not be stayed any longer. Even if it was purely measuring with his feet, he had to find the array eye as soon as possible and find a way out. Otherwise, it would be a disaster today. Not even a moment later, another bolt of lightning came crashing down on his head. The resentment seemed to carry a cruel sense of pleasure. And just as Lin Yi had expected, this one was stronger than the last. The color of the lightning's eyes was starting to turn dark purple. Once it completely turned into a dark purple lightning, it meant that the power was similar to that of the giant electric eel. It was a terrible killing move that could kill a sea-splitting stage existence with a sneak attack. Even 100 Lin Yi wouldn't be able to withstand it. This time, Lin Yi was already prepared. After receiving the warning from the jade pendant, he did not hesitate to pour out all the power of thunder and lightning accumulated in his body. An incomparably powerful dark blue lightning bolt broke through the air and met the purple lightning first. Lin Yi's heart was uneasy, because this lightning bolt mobilized the extra power of thunder and lightning accumulated in the last time. Its strength was far beyond his own strength. It was even much stronger than ordinary lightning tribulations. It already had the posture of a tenfold lightning tribulation. If it was before, even if you beat him to death, Lin Yi would not have thought that he could release such a powerful lightning bolt. But at this moment he really couldn't be happy, because even if it was the real tenfold lightning tribulation, it was still too much weaker than the purple lightning bolt above his head. It was really difficult to say how much he could offset. Sure enough, when Lin Yi's dark blue lightning bolt encountered the purple lightning bolt, it almost didn't produce any sparks. In the blink of an eye, it was completely extinguished. Then Lin Yi began to crazily convulse for the third time. The first time was severe pain, the second was torment, but this third time, Lin Yi was a little numb. This kind of thing began to happen again and again. The degree of pain was greatly reduced, but Lin Yi's heart was sinking little by little, because this was really not good news. It must be known that pain was the most important self-protection mechanism of the human body. Once the body felt completely numb, it meant that the body had completely given up resistance. In short, there was no hope. Chapter 4906. Not only could he resist the lightning to a certain extent, but most importantly, he could prevent his body from exploding on the spot. That was the minimum condition for him to survive. Lin Yi didn't know how long it had been, but he'd finally made it through the third lightning. His body was charred black, and he looked like a miner who'd just crawled out of a coal mine. At the same time, he was a ragged homeless man. It was a sight that would make anyone who saw it cry. "I told you, kid. You'll definitely survive. Keep it up." The ghostly thing chuckled. "Fuck. Senior, please don't mock me. I'm really going to die if this happens a few more times. Senior, if you have any ideas, please use them now. I really can't hold on any longer." Lin Yi said weakly. He believed that with the ghostly thing's ability, it would not be helpless. If it was willing to help, it would definitely have a way to get out. To his surprise, the ghostly thing curled its lips and said, "What ideas do I have? If I had a way, I would have taught you long ago. Why would I let you suffer so much? No matter what, you're one of us. I'm not a psychopath. Why would I watch you get struck by lightning for nothing?" Lin Yi rolled his eyes speechlessly. To be honest, he seriously suspected that the ghostly thing was a psychopath. Although he did not ask about it, he was sure that it had lived for at least 1,000 years. Moreover, it had been struggling at death's door for so long in this half-human, half-ghost appearance. It would be strange if it did not have any psychological problems. But to be honest, after watching for so long, I finally figured out something. The ghostly thing's tone suddenly changed. After all, it was a matter of life and death. It could not do nothing. It was basically a fool's dream for Lin Yi to escape by himself. What's the meaning? Lin Yi immediately became spirited. This place is not to be underestimated. The ghostly thing said seriously. Nonsense. Lin Yi rolled his eyes again. This was the legendary Thunder Burial City. He had been struck by lightning 3 times in a row. His whole body was almost cooked. How could this place be ordinary? I'm not talking nonsense. Don't tell me you've forgotten that although I don't have a physical body right now, I've been nourished in your jade pendant for so long. My primordial spirit has long since recovered to its peak, and it's even more refined than before. However, this place is still able to isolate my divine sense. Do you know what this means? The ghostly thing's tone was solemn. What do you mean? Lin Yi quickly asked. This means that this isn't a formation at all, because there has never been a formation on Heaven's Stage Island that could completely block my divine sense. Even the most profound formation I've seen could only restrict my divine sense at most. It definitely wouldn't be as useless as it is now. The ghostly thing sighed. Then what is this? Lin Yi didn't understand. Since he was in Thunder Burial City, he deduced that there was an extremely powerful formation here that completely blocked out divine senses. That was the most logical logic. However, this deduction was denied by the ghostly thing. With his experience, he couldn't think of any other possibilities. Do you still remember the half-moon lake on the North Island? The ghost asked instead of answering. Of course I remember. Lin Yi nodded immediately. The half-moon lake could be said to be the most shocking thing he had seen since he came to Heaven's Stage Island. The whole half-moon lake was the body of the same spirit beast. How terrifying it was. To be honest, when he heard this from the ghost, even with his courage and temperament, Lin Yi could not help but feel his legs turn to jelly. Before that, He had even fought with the humanoid puppet created by the ghost, and even won the 10,000-year tree crystal. In retrospect, it was simply incredible. At that time, only the ghost could scare the spirit beast, so he was lucky enough to escape. Otherwise, even 10,000 Lin Yi would have died in it. The trip to the South Island let Lin Yi see the power of the Spirit Beast clan. Not to mention the ghost, the former Azure Dragon. The Vermilion Bird was already standing at the top of the Spirit Beast clan. Later, he saw the 5 Poison Flood Dragon and the giant Electric Eel, which were beyond the sea-splitting stage. However, the most shocking thing to him was still the Half Moon Lake. So far, Lin Yi did not know the specific strength of the Half Moon Lake, but he thought it was not much weaker than the powerful spirit beasts on the South Island. Now that he thought about it, there was such a hidden existence in the back mountain of the North Island. Senior, why do you suddenly mention this? Lin Yi was a little confused, but then his expression changed, and the corner of his mouth began to twitch. No way. When I was in that guy's body, my divine sense was as useless as it is now. This is the only time, the ghost said faintly. Fuck. Lin Yi was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. When he looked around again, his expression suddenly became unnatural. He gasped and said, Senior, do you mean the entire Thunder Burial City is the same as the Half Moon Lake? A super spirit beast that has become a spirit? I didn't say that. You're just making a wild guess. Do you think it's possible for such a large basin to be a spirit beast? The ghost said disapprovingly. Since it's possible for the Half Moon Lake, of course it's possible for the Thunder Burial City. Lin Yi said firmly. No, they are completely different. The real body of the Half Moon Lake is actually the giant fir tree in the middle, and the surrounding Half Moon Lake is just a derivative of its huge roots. Therefore it is a real life form. As long as it has enough opportunities, it will naturally become a spirit. However, look at the Thunder Burial City. Does it look like a life form? The ghost asked. This doesn't seem like it. Lin Yi shook his head. It was understandable that the giant fir tree had become a spirit, but if the Thunder Burial City, which was made of soil and stone, had also become a spirit, then his worldview and outlook on life would really collapse. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment, then he quickly asked, But how do you explain this situation? According to what you said, your divine sense will only lose its effect when it enters the body of a powerful creature, right? You can say that. That's why I speculate that although this place is different from the Half Moon Lake, there should be some similarities. Don't you think the resentment in the surroundings is a little too strong? The ghost asked. It is indeed too strong. Even a top-notch thunder-type spirit beast like the Thunder Dragon shouldn't be able to release its resentment out of nowhere and fill this place with it, right? Unless, Lin Yi said hesitantly. Unless what? The ghost asked. Chapter 4907. Speaking of malicious spirits, aren't I a ready-made malicious spirit? It's just that I don't usually harm people. The ghostly thing chuckled. Lin Yi was rendered speechless. However, he soon understood what the ghostly thing meant. He asked in surprise, Senior, what do you mean? A primordial spirit. Although we're not inside a living creature like the Half Moon Lake, we're inside a gigantic primordial spirit. That's the only explanation, the ghostly thing said in a firm tone. That makes sense. Lin Yi nodded. First, the ghostly thing's divine sense was ineffective. Then, there was the strong resentment in the surroundings. This seemed to be the only explanation. Then he asked curiously, what kind of thing can have such a gigantic primordial spirit? Can it cover the entire Thunder Burial City? Although Lin Yi did not know much about primordial spirits, he knew some basic knowledge. For example, a primordial spirit would usually maintain its original appearance. Even if it did not, it would only condense into a cloud of ghostly mist like the ghostly thing. Although it was not impossible for it to disperse in all directions, wouldn't that increase the risk of the primordial spirit being destroyed? It was difficult for a primordial spirit to exist out of thin air. Even the ghostly thing, the former Azure Dragon, was on the verge of death. Without the support of a physical body, it would be like a tree without roots or water without a source. It would only dissipate bit by bit. However, If the primordial spirit was gigantic, it would only speed up the process. What's the most common thing in this place? The ghostly thing asked. Since this is Thunder Burial City, it's only natural that the number of dead thunder attribute spirit beasts is the most. At this point, Lenny suddenly thought of something, and he asked, Senior, are you saying that this primordial spirit is a dead thunder attribute spirit beast? That's right. Judging from the looks of it, it's not just one or two primordial spirits. It's a strange existence that has gathered countless primordial spirits of thunder attribute spirit beasts. This is a vengeful spirit primordial spirit. The ghostly thing said with certainty. A vengeful spirit primordial spirit. Lenny was horrified. An evil primordial spirit that had gathered the resentment of countless thunder attribute spirit beasts. Just thinking about it made his scalp tingle. That's the only explanation. Perhaps it was only the soul of a certain lightning spirit beast in the beginning. However, if that's the case, it wouldn't have been able to last long. Thus, it could only devour the souls of other lightning spirit beasts and grow stronger. That's why it became what it is today. It really is a monster. The ghostly thing sighed. But if it's just a vengeful spirit, why can it use lightning to strike me? Lenny could not help but wonder. Logically speaking, aside from spiritual sense, a primordial spirit could not use any offensive or defensive martial techniques. Naturally, lightning was no exception. I was also curious about this problem at first, so I didn't think about it. But I just thought that if I can find a temporary host, even if it's just a vengeful spirit, I can use the host's power when he was alive. I can find the corpse of any thunder spirit beast here, and I can use the power of thunder. The ghostly thing said. So that's how it is. Lenny suddenly understood. After being stunned for a moment, he suddenly thought of something. With a strange expression he asked, If I die, Senior, will you do the same? Guess. The ghostly thing laughed and did not give a direct answer. I guess you will. Lenny smiled bitterly. Although they were familiar with each other, he did not dare to flatter the ghostly thing too much. Don't forget that when they first met, this guy had the idea of taking over his body. Once he died, this guy would definitely not sit still and wait for death. It was almost inevitable that it would take over his body. To expect this guy to regard his body as something sacred and inviolable was simply an idiot in the eyes of the ghostly thing. But then again, Lenny did not expect such a thing to happen. If he really died, everything would have nothing to do with him. Being able to let this ghostly thing borrow his body could be considered as a benefit to him. After all, one should not let the goodies flow into one's field. Alright, enough nonsense. You know what to do next, right? The ghostly thing returned to the topic. Of course. Lenny nodded in a deep voice. Since he had confirmed that this was not a formation, there was no so-called formation there was only one way to leave this place. And that was to find the corpse that the vengeful spirit was temporarily residing in and destroy it. There was no other way. The lingering resentment in the surroundings was getting stronger, which meant that the fourth lightning strike was not far away. Although he had withstood 3 lightning strikes in a row, Lenny still did not have the slightest confidence that he could face the 4th and 5th lightning strikes. This was because he could tell from the vengeful spirit's behavior that the stronger the resentment, the stronger the lightning. Therefore, Lenny had to race with the ghostly thing. He had to find the ghostly thing before it launched a stronger attack. Only then would he have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he would definitely die today. However, it was easier said than done. Putting aside what he should do after finding the ghostly thing, it was extremely difficult to find the corpse that the ghostly thing was residing in. His vision was blocked, and his divine sense was ineffective. He could only search with his feet. Under such circumstances, finding a corpse in Thunder Burial City was easier said than done. It was no different from finding a needle in a haystack. However, Lenny had no other choice. This was the only way. Even if he had to kneel, he could only grit his teeth and crawl. Otherwise he would die. After searching for a while, Lenny suddenly stopped. There was a white skeleton under his feet. It seemed to belong to some kind of bulky dog-type spirit beast, but he was not sure what kind of spirit beast it was. Lenny only took a glance at it before continuing to explore. This skeleton could not possibly be the host of the vengeful spirit. After all, it had been dead for a long time, and had rotted into a pile of bones. Some of the bones even showed signs of weathering. Putting aside the question of whether the vengeful spirit could still reside in it, even if it did, it would not be able to move, let alone anything else. In addition, there was another important reason. The vengeful spirit Yuan Shun's strength was largely limited by its host's strength when it was alive. It was impossible for an ordinary thunder-type spirit beast to unleash that kind of purple lightning just now. Only the few thunder-type spirit beasts that stood at the top had a chance. As a result, instead of saying that he was looking for a lightning beast's body, it would be more accurate to say that he wasn't looking for a normal lightning beast's body. His target range was very limited, and there was an 80 to 90% chance that it would be a lightning eagle or a lightning dragon. Chapter 4908. Although they looked shocking, they were all ordinary thunder-type spirit beasts. Perhaps they could cause trouble in the outside world, but if they wanted to be chosen as a host by the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, they were obviously not qualified. While he was exploring, another bolt of purple lightning struck down from above. Lenny was already prepared. He waved his hand and struck again. What happened next was a repeat of the crazy scene from before. Fortunately, Lenny was a little surprised. This time, the purple lightning was not much stronger than before. With the previous experience, he was able to successfully resist it. Of course, he looked very miserable, but he did not suffer many substantial injuries. Could it be that this is its limit? Lenny was suddenly happy. The lightning tempering had made him a lot stronger than when he came in. Not only had the power of the lightning become stronger, but even his body had become more resistant to electricity. With his current state, if he walked out, let alone a normal lightning tribulation, he would be able to resist 5 times the lightning tribulation without batting an eyelid. 10 times the lightning tribulation would at most make him groan. After all, he had endured at least 50 times the lightning tribulation. Especially the last 2 times. It was estimated that it was nearly 100 times. It seems to be the case. The power of its purple lightning is already comparable to a mountain opening stage master. It is impossible for it to be stronger than this. The ghostly thing agreed. Why is that? If it is really a top-level thunder-type spirit beast, it is not strange for it to be above the mountain opening stage, right? Lenny was puzzled. The strength of top-level thunder-type spirit beasts like the thunder dragon and the lightning eagle would not be much weaker than the top-level masters of the other spirit beast clans. Otherwise, no one would look at the thunder-type spirit beast seriously. In other words, even if the strength of the powerful existence among them was not comparable to the 4 top elders, the strength of the earth opening stage was at the very least. It's not strange, but you have to know that even if the vengeful spirit's primordial soul is attached to their corpses, it's impossible for it to display all of its strength when it was alive. It's bound to be damaged, and it's very normal for it to fall by a realm. Spirit beasts at the earth opening stage can only display the strength of the mountain opening stage in its hands, and it's very difficult to be stronger than this, the ghost explained. So that's how it is. Senior, you should have told me earlier. I've been so worried for so long. Lenny finally let out a sigh of relief. His nerves had been stretched taut since just now. He really thought that he was not far from death this time. However, after listening to the ghost's words, he could finally put his heart back into his stomach. Hee, how can I guarantee this kind of thing? Even if its strength is reduced by a great realm. What if the corpse turns out to be at the sea-splitting stage? Wouldn't you still die then? The ghostly thing laughed in schadenfreude. Aren't sea-splitting stage cultivators capable of fighting over the 4 grand elders of your spirit beast clans? How could there be so many sea-splitting stage cultivators? Senior, don't lie to me. Lenny curled his lips and said, there aren't many sea-splitting stage spirit beasts. But who told you that there aren't any thunder attribute spirit beasts? They used to be a powerful existence in the past. If it weren't for the appearance of the spirit beast king, they would have met a similar fate as the ghost-eyed Eagle King. Most of them were forced to hole up in this thunderous plain island. Perhaps, they would have had a share of the 4 grand elders, the ghostly thing said with a sigh. In that case, the Spirit Beast King has simply reshuffled the power structure of your Spirit Beast clan. Lenny sighed with heartfelt emotion. Nonsense, it's the only one in history to be able to forcibly unite all the Spirit Beasts into one clan. This kind of matter is only a trivial matter in its eyes, the ghostly thing said in a deliberately indifferent manner. It didn't realize that its tone had unconsciously changed as soon as it mentioned the Spirit Beast King. Lenny secretly smiled when he heard this. The Spirit Beast King really deserved its reputation, if it could make this ghostly thing admire it from the bottom of its heart. While the two of them were communicating with each other through their souls, Lenny was still rapidly exploring the surroundings. There were already no less than 100 skeletons under his feet. If it weren't for the current critical situation, Lenny would have definitely slowed down his pace and widened his horizons. This place was simply a Thunder Tribute Spirit Beast museum. There were all kinds of strange and bizarre things. After a while, an incomparably huge amount of resentment was accompanied by a loud rumble of purple lightning. Lenny threw out a lightning strike to contend with it. Then, he once again broke into a dance in the air. To be honest, he had already started to get used to it. Hee, the time between the beginning and the end is getting shorter and shorter. It seems that we'll soon find the master. The ghostly thing began to excitedly rub its palms together. Even if we find it, we might not be able to defeat it. Senior, why are you so excited? Lenny couldn't help but feel a little speechless. Although there should be no problem with his previous deduction, the problem was, what should he do after he found the opponent? Even if the opponent only had the strength of the mountain opening stage, he wouldn't be able to defeat it as a mere early stage mysterious ascending stage. After thinking about it, Lenny felt that the only good news at the moment was that he was becoming more and more resistant to electricity. The opponent should not be able to kill him in a short period of time. Otherwise, if it was a mountain opening stage being of other attributes, he might be killed in a second. Of course, if that was really the case, he wouldn't foolishly take the initiative to find the opponent. Instead, he would only run as far away as he could. He didn't dare to be caught by the opponent. Why can't I defeat it? The ghostly thing disagreed. It curled its lips and said, "It's not a real mountain opening stage spirit beast. At most it's a controlled corpse. It's full of flaws. It's perfect for you to practice your moves." Really? Lenny was stunned. From what the ghostly thing said, the opponent was nothing to be afraid of. However, no matter what, it was at least a mountain opening stage being. Was it really that easy to deal with? Take a guess. The ghostly thing chuckled. Guess your sister. Lenny was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He really didn't know what to say to such a fellow. He could only continue to search in silence. Whether the ghostly thing was telling the truth or not, he would find out once he tried it. After that, there were another 2 bolts of purple lightning. With Lin Yi's rare body talent, although he could be reborn every time he was hit, he still couldn't endure being struck continuously. If he was hit a few more times, he might overload his body and die from heart paralysis. However, fortunately, he finally found an extremely blurry and huge shadow in front of him. Lenny instantly felt that something was different, because the opponent was moving. At the moment, they were only about 100 feet apart. Due to the heavy fog, Lenny couldn't see the opponent's face at all. The first thought that appeared in his mind was, is this dead or alive? Chapter 4909. However, if it was alive, it meant that it was a thunder-type spiritual beast that was about to die. It was very likely that it would trigger the thunder burial ritual soon. Should he still rush forward? Lenny only hesitated for a moment before he heard the alarm of the jade pendant. Without even looking at it, he subconsciously activated his extreme butterfly steps and dodged to the side. Boom! This time, it was not purple lightning that fell, but a giant claw. To be precise, it should be a giant bone claw. At first glance, it looked like an eagle's claw, but when he raised his head slightly, he could see that it was not an eagle's body at all. Its huge and ferocious head was suspended in the air, and its eye sockets were emitting two terrifying purple lights. Thunder Dragon. This time Linny almost blurted out. He had never seen a thunder dragon before, but there was no doubt that the giant beast in front of him was a thunder dragon. Moreover, it was a thunder dragon that had been dead for a long time. There was not much dry skin and flesh on its body, and white bones could be seen everywhere. The strong death aura really made one's scalp tingle. It seems that my previous guess was right. The spirit of resentment is controlling this thunder dragon's corpse. Hee hee kid, your chance to show off your skills is here. The ghost did not miss the opportunity and laughed. Damn, Linny was simply full of vulgarities. Previously, he had been struck by purple lightning so many times that both his spirit and body were already exhausted. Now, he had to face such a huge thunder dragon alone. Wasn't this a trap? Even if this was just a thunder dragon's corpse controlled by the spirit of resentment, it was still comparable to the existence of the mountain opening period. It was easy for the ghost to say, but the problem was that it was not so easy to deal with. However, in order to survive, he could only fight to the end. It seemed that because so many lightning strikes had not killed Linny before, the thunder dragon's corpse actually gave up on the purple lightning and directly launched an attack with its huge body. After a sharp and ear-piercing roar, two giant bone claws slapped down at the same time. Linny's eyelids twitched. If he was hit by this attack, he would definitely be smashed into minced meat. What was even more difficult to deal with was that although this fellow's huge body was close at hand, it appeared very ghostly due to the cover of the surrounding fog. The attack came without warning, and if one were to observe it purely with the naked eye, by the time they saw its bone claws, they might have already been smashed to death. Fortunately, Linny had the jade pendant as an early warning, and with the help of the extreme butterfly subtle steps, he could successfully avoid the attack. Otherwise, it would be good if he could escape, let alone fight against it. Dodging two bone claws consecutively, without waiting for Linny to heave a sigh of relief, a bone tail swept towards him from the side. There was no need to experience it personally. Just looking at the momentum was enough to make one's scalp go numb. This tailbone covered an extremely large area, and it almost completely sealed off all of Linny's escape routes. In a moment of desperation, Linny hastily shot out his Jinqi without any regard for the price. His feet suddenly exerted force, and his whole body instantly soared into the sky. Hiss! Seeing this, the thunder dragon's dried corpse let out a terrifying roar, opened its huge mouth, and bit towards Linny, who was in midair. Seeing this, Linny was scared out of his wits. At this time, he was in midair, and he didn't even have a foothold to borrow strength from, so how could he dodge? At this critical moment of life and death, he watched helplessly as the thunder dragon's huge mouth got closer and closer. If he was bitten, Linny's body would instantly be smashed to pieces. After all, the thunder dragon was a powerful existence that stood at the top of the thunder attribute spirit beasts. Not to mention its powerful power of thunder and lightning, its physical combat strength alone was already not to be underestimated. Even if this thunder dragon's dried corpse only retained 30% of its strength when it was alive, it was enough to kill Linny without a burial place. However, at this critical moment, when an ordinary person's mind would have gone blank, Linny's mind turned even faster than usual. Unexpectedly, he thought of a clever way to escape death. Taking advantage of the moment when the thunder dragon opened its mouth to bite him, Jingyuan Qi suddenly shot out from his back, and he took the initiative to send himself into the thunder dragon's huge mouth. If this was a living thunder dragon, Linny would definitely not dare to do this, even if he was beaten to death, because sending himself into the thunder dragon's mouth was basically suicide. Fortunately, this was only a thunder dragon's dried corpse, so as long as he could avoid being bitten by its sharp teeth, entering the thunder dragon's mouth was not a big problem. In fact, this gave Linny an unprecedented advantage, because after he entered the thunder dragon's mouth, the thunder dragon's dried corpse suddenly found that it could not hit this human bug. Oh boy, you really are a fighting genius. Even with the ghostly creature's foresight, it couldn't help but praise him. It clicked its tongue and said, "Being a human is such a waste of your combat talent. How good would it be if you were a spirit beast? If you had the powerful physical body of our dragon clan, you would be able to challenge the vermilion bird." At this time, Linny did not have the time to pay attention to it. Entering the Thunder Dragon's mouth in a desperate situation. Although this time he had the absolute advantage, it was still a big problem to defeat the Thunder Dragon. He was only a mysterious Ascended Realm early stage master, and really did not have any means to deal with such a level of Thunder Dragon's dried corpse. Right now, the most lethal lightning strike obviously could not be used. If it hit the Thunder Dragon's body, it would probably not even be able to scratch an itch. After all, the Thunder Dragon was the real expert in playing with electricity. Its ability to withstand electricity was naturally far above that of a human like Lin Yi. As for the remaining other means, the most powerful was only the 5 elements killing Qi. If Lin Yi was given enough time, he might be able to create an even stronger 8 elements martial skill. But unfortunately, he obviously did not have this condition right now. Whatever. Lin Yi did not have time to continue to hesitate. He raised his hand and sent out the most powerful 5 elements killing Qi directly towards the brain of the Thunder Dragon's dried corpse. He knew that attacking other places was useless. Only this place was most likely to hide the vengeful spirit Yuan Shen. Boom! The 5 elements killing Qi instantly pierced through a thick layer of white bones, and the huge brain cavity appeared in front of Lin Yi without any obstruction. Impressively, there was a strange purple mist entrenched inside. Lin Yi's body suddenly trembled. He only felt a monstrous resentment rushing towards him. This was almost solid. Caught off guard, his whole body was sent flying. Fortunately, in a moment of desperation, he grabbed the bone next to him. Otherwise, he would have failed and had to start all over again. Could it be that this is the vengeful spirit Yuan Shen? Lin Yi's heart moved. He subconsciously raised his hand and sent out another 5 elements killing Qi. But he regretted it as soon as he sent it out. Since the opponent was a Yuan Shen, the 5 elements killing Qi was completely useless against it. Sure enough, the 5 elements killing Qi directly passed through the strange purple mist. There was not even the slightest sound. It was completely useless. Chapter 49:10. After communicating with the ghostly thing for so long, Lin Yi immediately knew that it wasn't a voice from reality. Instead, it was a message that the vengeful spirit had imprinted in his mind through divine sense. Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly had a flash of inspiration. It wasn't as if he didn't have any methods to deal with this kind of primordial spirit. Don't forget that when he first met this ghostly thing, he didn't immediately start a friendly conversation with it. Lin Yi wasn't in the mood to talk nonsense with this vengeful spirit that couldn't even speak clearly. He summoned his alchemic fire without hesitation. This thing was the most effective against primordial spirits. The alchemic fire instantly entered the strange purple mist. However, the scene that Lin Yi expected to destroy the opponent's primordial spirit didn't happen. At first glance, it seemed that the opponent didn't react at all. How is this possible? Lin Yi immediately frowned. This can't be. Could it be that the alchemic fire has no effect on primordial spirits? However, Lin Yi immediately knew that he was wrong. The strange purple mist, that was originally calm, suddenly became extremely violent. The lightning dragon's dried corpse that was under its control directly used its claws and tail to smash its huge, hideous head into pieces in an instant. Lin Yi lost his footing and fell from the sky. He was terrified. Fortunately, the jade pendant warned him in time, and he dodged in time. Otherwise, he would have most likely been smashed into pieces like the lightning dragon's dried corpse. From the looks of it, the alchemic fire wasn't completely ineffective against it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have suddenly become so violent, and even allowed the lightning dragon's dried corpse to mutilate itself. Of course it's effective. However, the level of your alchemic fire is too low. It can't destroy it directly, but it can still hurt it. The ghostly thing that had been silent for a long time suddenly spoke. Then what should I do now? Should I still use my alchemic fire to burn it? Lenny asked as he dodged the lightning dragon's dried corpse that suddenly fell to the ground. At this time, after the self-mutilation, the lightning dragon's dried corpse didn't even have its head anymore. The strange purple mist had completely separated from its head and was gradually dissipating into the air. It was not destroyed. Instead, it had reverted to its original form as a vengeful spirit. The resentment that shrouded the entire Thunder Burial City was its true form. If you want to burn it, then burn it. However, it won't be of much use. It will only cause it a little pain. If you want to rely on your pill flame to burn it to death, who knows how long it will take. The ghostly thing curled its lips. Then what should I do? Lenny frowned helplessly. He could do nothing but stare helplessly as he watched the purple mist gradually disappear into the surrounding resentment. Let's just watch the show. You've been playing for so long. It's time for me to exercise a little. The ghostly thing chuckled, and before Lenny could react, he suddenly roared, "Octagonal deity, get out here!" An unparalleled pressure pressed down on all four directions, and Lenny could clearly feel that the vengeful spirits around him had been shaken off a bit, while the purple mist in the distance was trembling nonstop, as if there was an invisible suction force pulling it over. Under this strong suction force, the strange purple mist was unable to resist at all. Moreover, what surprised Lenny even more was that as the strange purple mist was pulled over, the huge amount of resentment in the surroundings rapidly weakened and soon disappeared without a trace. Not only that, but the thick mist in all directions also gradually dissipated. His vision suddenly became clear, and he could clearly see dozens of feet away. Even his divine sense could be used again. Lenny was overjoyed. It was as if a drowning man had finally seen the light of day. He could finally take a breath of relief. The suffocating feeling of being shrouded in layers of mist was unbearable, and his chest felt like it was going to explode if this went on. "Senior, if you have such a powerful method, why didn't you use it earlier? Instead, you made me fight to death with a thunder dragon's corpse. Are you deliberately teasing me?" Lenny couldn't help but complain with a wry smile. "Who's teasing you? I don't have the time to do that." The ghostly thing sneered. "Isn't that the case? I fought desperately for a long time, but in the end it was useless." "Senior," you casually roared, and it was subdued. "Why didn't you do anything earlier?" Lenny curled his lips. "Casually roared?" The ghostly thing was immediately amused. It chuckled and said, "Boy, you really don't know what's good for you. Do you think it's so easy to casually roar with such a powerful divine sense? Let me tell you, using this move will greatly damage my vitality. I've been preparing it since I came in. After all, this is the vengeful spirit's primordial spirit that has gathered the souls of countless thunder attribute spirit beasts. Do you really think it's so easy to deal with?" Lenny was slightly stunned. Only now did he realize that the ghostly thing seemed to be a little weak. It seemed that it had really damaged its vitality. A move that could suppress the vengeful spirit's primordial spirit in one fell swoop was really costly. As the two of them spoke, the strange purple mist had been completely captured. However, it was no longer a ball of mist like before. Instead, it revealed some appearances of spirit beasts. However, one moment it was a dragon, the next moment it was a hawk, the next moment it was a tiger, and the next moment it was a leopard. "You will all die." The vengeful spirit's primordial spirit's voice was once again imprinted in Lin Yi's mind. "Hee, that's good. I want to see how you'll kill us." The ghostly thing sneered when it heard this. Then, as if a giant hand had appeared out of thin air, the vengeful spirit's primordial spirit let out a heart-wrenching scream. The purple light around it dimmed significantly. "Please let me go." The vengeful spirit's primordial spirit couldn't take it anymore. Like a wild beast that had just learned to speak, it began to beg for mercy with great difficulty. "Hee, this fellow is quite tactful." Lenny couldn't help but laugh. He thought that since the other party was formed from the countless dead thunder attribute spirit beasts, it would be an incomparably fierce and violent existence. He didn't think that it would be able to speak with reason. He didn't think that it would so quickly open its mouth to beg for mercy. It's very normal. This fellow has fused with too many vengeful spirits. Although its strength is unbelievably strong, At the same time, because of the conflict between the various vengeful spirits, its intelligence is greatly affected. It's already good enough that it can still speak the human language. It doesn't know how to play any tricks. The ghostly thing explained. So that's how it is. No wonder this fellow's movements were so slow when it first attacked me. It took such a long time between the two bolts of lightning. If it was just a little bit faster, I wouldn't have been able to react and would have been struck to death by its lightning. Lenny nodded. Chapter 49:11. Lenny was purely relying on his beastly instincts to fight. Otherwise, even if an ordinary cultivator was controlling the lightning dragon mummy, Lenny reckoned that it would be difficult for him to find an opportunity to attack. After all, the difference in strength between them was just too great. It's fortunate that this is the case. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. You wouldn't have been able to hold on until I used the octagonal spirit capture. The ghostly thing chuckled. Then, another powerful aura descended on the origin soul of the vengeful specter's head. It said coldly, "Behave yourself, or you will die. Behave, behave." The origin soul of the vengeful specter was unable to move, and did not dare to resist. "Tell me, why did you attack us?" The ghostly thing asked in a deep voice. "Eat, eat." The origin soul of the vengeful specter stammered. Lenny was stunned. He immediately asked with his divine sense, "You want to eat my primordial spirit?" "Yes, I want to eat every time I come in." The origin soul of the vengeful specter admitted. You're a foodie." Lenny shook his head speechlessly. He finally understood that the lightning burial city was the nest of the origin soul of the vengeful specter. No matter who broke into the city, be it a lightning-type spiritual beast or a human cultivator, they were all food for the origin soul of the vengeful specter. If it could not eat continuously, the origin soul of the vengeful specter would continue to weaken and eventually die. "All right, now that everything is clear, it's up to you to decide whether to kill it or not," the ghostly thing said indifferently. "You want me to decide?" Lenny was stunned. He looked at the trembling origin soul of the vengeful specter and shook his head. "There's no benefit in killing it. It might even cause some changes." "Kid, you're quite thoughtful." The ghostly being chuckled in agreement. "However, your concerns aren't completely unreasonable. Even though this thing has low intelligence, it's still the ruler of Thunder Burial City. It's hard to say if there'll be a chain reaction if it's destroyed." "That's right. But I can't let it go that easily. It hit me so many times, I'm almost burnt to a crisp. I should at least pay some medical fees," Lenny said with a playful smile on his lips. "Medical fees? What is it?" the vengeful spirit Yuan Shin suddenly asked. This guy is quite curious. Lenny couldn't help but smile. When he first found out about the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, his heart was filled with fear. He was even helpless against this ghostly thing. After that he was struck by lightning like a stray dog. But now that he had completely subdued the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, his impression of the vengeful spirit primordial spirit was completely different. Not only was he not afraid, he even felt that the vengeful spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit was quite interesting. At this time, because the ghostly thing was no longer deliberately suppressing it, although the vengeful spirit was much weaker than before, its state could finally be stabilized, and it maintained the appearance of a lightning dragon. According to what the ghostly thing had said, this fellow's original primordial spirit was most likely a thunder dragon. Only such an extremely powerful being could leave behind a primordial spirit that could devour the primordial spirits of other thunder attribute spirit beasts after its death, and thus develop step by step to its current astonishing stage. Medical fees. I'll pay for the medical fees. The vengeful spirit seemed to have understood something. It pointed in all directions and stammered, "These are all for you." "Oh." Lenny glanced around and instantly choked. His expression was extremely interesting. At this moment, he finally had a chance to take a good look at the legendary Thunder Burial City. At this moment, without the dense fog of the vengeful spirit, he could see everything clearly. In the beginning, Lenny had expected that even if the ground wasn't filled with Xian cultivating grass, he would at least be able to find Xian cultivating grass easily. In the end, after taking a look around, his heart instantly sank to the bottom. This place was a barren wasteland. There wasn't even a single blade of grass to be seen, let alone mystic raising grass. All he could see were white bones. The so-called Thunder Burial City was just a beautified name. In Lin Yi's eyes, it was more appropriate to call this place a mass grave. You're saying that you're giving these bones to me as medical fees? Lin Yi looked at the vengeful spirit, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Yes, I haven't finished eating them. The vengeful spirit quickly replied. This meant that there were still some spirit remnants left on the bones. It didn't absorb all of them, so it naturally handed them over. To it, these were probably the most precious things. To a certain extent, this vengeful spirit was actually quite generous. Unfortunately, Lin Yi really didn't have the fortune to enjoy such generosity. If there were some powerful thunder attribute spiritual beasts that had just died, they would still be of some value to him. However, perhaps because of the thunder burial, most of the corpses in front of him had already turned into white bones. They wouldn't be of much use to refine pills or forge weapons. They were only of little value. Lin Yi casually took some of the corpses of top-notch thunder attribute spiritual beasts, such as thunder dragons and lightning eagles. After all, he didn't need to put in any effort. With a single thought, he could put them into the space in the jade pendant. Even if they were of little value, it was better than returning empty-handed. Sigh, I've made a wasted trip. Lin Yi sighed helplessly. He didn't even see a trace of the profound nurturing grass. Instead, he was struck by the vengeful spirit for nothing. He was really suffering. Kid, you should be content. Let's not talk about other things. The power of thunder in your body has improved by leaps and bounds. It's far better than 10 years of hard work. This kind of benefit isn't any worse than the profound nurturing grass. On the contrary, I've really suffered a great loss this time. I didn't gain anything at all. Instead, I suffered a great loss for nothing. The ghost thing smiled bitterly. Senior, since this fellow can grow stronger by devouring other thunder attribute spiritual beasts' primordial spirits, you should be able to too, right? Lin Yi suddenly had an idea. I can, but do you think my brain is flooded with water? The ghost thing curled its lips disapprovingly. What do you mean? Lin Yi was confused. If I devour other primordial spirits wantonly, of course, I can grow as fast as it. I can even devour it in one gulp. However, at that time, I won't be me anymore. I'll be the next stupid vengeful spirit. Do you understand? The ghost thing was speechless. That serious? Lin Yi was slightly shocked. In his understanding, primordial spirits were the same as vital energy. They were also a type of energy. Since it was energy, it could naturally be replenished in the most direct way. He didn't expect this result. Chapter 49:12. That's not worth it. Rather than that, it's better to slowly nurture it myself. Lin Yi nodded and left Thunder Burial City. It wasn't until he climbed up the cliff that the ghost completely let go of the vengeful spirit. It spoke in a meaningful tone. Consider this a good deed. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. Huh. Lin Yi couldn't help but ask. You can only enter this place once, and you won't have the chance to come again. Why would it come in handy? Hehe. I've heard a rumor from Lei Long. I don't know if it's true or not, but this Thunder Plain Island isn't as simple as it looks. Let's talk about it in the future. I'm going into seclusion now, so don't bother me if there's nothing important. All right. Lin Yi shook his head helplessly and didn't pursue the matter. He left in high spirits and returned in low spirits. He hadn't even seen a trace of the Xian nurturing grass after so long. He was a little dispirited, and he was exhausted. He wasn't in the mood for it. He smiled bitterly as he looked at his tattered clothes. Lin Yi treated his wounds and changed into a clean set of clothes. He then began to search for Xinyan and the others. They should be looking for the Xian nurturing grass. If he was lucky, they might have already found it. However, before he could go far, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. A moment later, he saw the figure of a somewhat familiar woman in the distance, stumbling in his direction. Lin took a closer look, and was shocked when he saw the figure. It was Kaiwa. Although she was wearing a veil, it was easy to tell from her clothes and temperament that it was Kaiwa. Didn't this girl leave? Why did she come back? Kaiwa had been running and crawling along the way. Her flustered appearance didn't match the third fairy at all. She was overjoyed when she saw Lin. She quickly yelled, "Help, young hero! Someone's trying to rob me!" Lin paused as he saw a figure approaching Kaiwa from behind. It was a ferocious-looking man in black, holding a long and a short machete in his hands. It was a strange sight. Although Kaiwa was stumbling, she was still a Mystic Ascension early-stage master. Her running speed was also extremely fast. In a few breaths, she had already reached Lin Yi's side, and hid behind him without saying a word. At the same time, the man in black quickly caught up. He didn't even look at Lin Yi and stared at Kaiwa fiercely. "Little girl, where's Brother Chong? Why isn't he back yet? Why are you fine? Hurry up, and let me search your body to see if there's anything you shouldn't have on you. Only then can you prove your innocence," the man in black said as he put away the machete in his hand. He reached out to touch Sayue's body. From beginning to end, he didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes. It was as if Lin Yi was air in his eyes. He didn't even have the qualifications to look at him. Lin Yi had seen many arrogant geniuses, but it was rare to see someone as arrogant as him. "Young hero, save me. Young hero, save me." Kaiwa was very clever. She dodged back and forth behind Lin Yi. She simply stopped running, and used Lin Yi as a shield. Where did this blind boy come from? Get out of my way. The black-clothed man finally opened his mouth and cursed. With a twist of his wrist, the curved blade flashed, and he pressed it against Lin Yi's chest with lightning speed. "I'll count to 3 or you die." Lin Yi looked at the black-clothed man calmly. He didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business. After all, he had only met Kaiwa once, and they weren't friends at all. He didn't want to be someone's shield for no reason. He wasn't a fool who couldn't move his legs at the sight of a beautiful woman. However, now that the man's machete was on his chest, it was unrealistic for him to stay out of it. Moreover, Kaiwa was quite likable. Lin Yi wouldn't completely leave her in the lurch. "Let's talk. What's the matter?" Lin Yi said immediately. "Oh, you're quite arrogant. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this?" After the man in black was stunned, he suddenly showed his fierceness and said with a murderous look, 1, 2, 3. As soon as the voice fell, the man in black raised his hand without hesitation, and was about to slash at Lin Yi. As a result, Kaiwa, who was hiding behind him, suddenly came out and quickly stopped him. "Don't slash. Don't slash. This has nothing to do with him." Lin Yi was about to cripple the man in black, but he couldn't help but smile when he heard this. It seemed that this chick, in addition to being a little silly, had a bit of loyalty. It was commendable that she didn't completely sell me at this time. Seeing Kaiwa blocking in front of him, the man in black suddenly put away his machete. He looked back and forth at Kaiwa and Lin Yi with a surprised face. He pinched his chin and sneered. "I was wondering why you little girl had to run here. It turns out that you have a lover. Tell me, did the two of you conspire to kill Brother Chong?" Kaiwa was shocked when she heard this. She turned her head, and looked at the inexplicable Lin Yi. She suddenly reacted and waved at the man in black. No, no, no. It's not me. I didn't want to kill him. What did you say?" The man in black's eyes became sharp. No. I mean, he shouldn't be dead yet." Sayue's words became more and more outrageous. She didn't even finish 2 sentences before she spilled the beans. Lin Yi looked at this scene speechlessly. His forehead was full of cold sweat. He knew this chick's character and IQ. Otherwise, he would really think that she had ulterior motives to make him hate her. To be honest, Lin Yi had now begun to sincerely admire Sayue's master. Putting aside the fact that he betrothed this chick to Chong Lading, the fact that he was able to teach Kaiwa to become a profound ascending stage master showed that this master was definitely a master. If it was an ordinary person, He would have cried at Inai Sayua's stupidity. How could he teach her to such an extent? He had misunderstood Inai Kaiwa. In addition to being relatively simple, the main thing was that this chick had no experience in the martial world. So at critical times, she would appear to be stupid. It wasn't really a problem with her IQ. In terms of cultivation talent, Inai Kaiwa was a first-class cultivation genius. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to advance to profound ascending stage at such a young age. Chapter 49:13. No. I don't know if he's dead or not. Inai Kaiwa was so scared that her face turned pale, and she said with a sobbing tone. Hearing this, Linny was completely speechless. Inai Sayua's words were basically admitting that she had harmed Chong Lading. What was a pig teammate? This was a typical pig teammate. And then again, the other party was a profound ascension early stage master. And she herself was also a profound ascension early stage master. Even if her strength was not as good, she should not be afraid to this extent. Looking at Inai Sayua's flustered appearance, it was estimated that she had not fought at all. A dignified profound ascension early stage master, facing an opponent of the same level, did not even have the courage to make a move. To be more precise, she did not even have the thought of making a move. This was simply shocking. How did this kind of trash succeed in breaking through to the profound ascension stage? How could those who had spent their entire life's efforts only to stop at the Yuaniing Great Perfection stage feel? From this point of view, Inai Kaiwa was really a strange person. At this moment, a man in gray quickly approached from afar and shouted, "Oldly, how is it?" The man in black named Oldly responded, and pointed at Lin Yi with his machete. "Old Xiao, this girl and her lover seem to have conspired to kill Brother Chong. What should we do?" "What? Brother Chong was killed by them? This damned adulterous couple." Old Zhao's face suddenly changed. Chong Lading was not only a big brother to the two of them, but also a backer and protective umbrella in the academy. If Chong Lading really died, the two of them would not be in a good situation in the future. After all, they used to be tyrannical and offended a lot of people. They really deserve to die. "Old Xiao, you decide what we should do next. I'll listen to you," Oldly said immediately. "Of course, we will kill this adulterous couple to avenge Brother Chong." Old Zhao's eyes flashed with killing intent. "Good, 1 blade each. Grandpa will send you 2 on your way." Oldly grinned, and was about to attack Lin Yi and Inai Kaiwa. "Wait." Old Xiao suddenly reached out and stopped him. He stared at Inai Kaiwa lecherously and said, "Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. As long as you know what's good for you, hand over all your good things, and obediently obey me, I can consider letting you live." Inai Kaiwa was frightened by his gaze that seemed to be able to see through her clothes. She quickly hid behind Lin Yi and pushed Lin Yi out. Seeing this, Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. It seemed that he had to take back his previous evaluation. This little girl Ni's loyalty only lasted for a short while, and then she turned around and sold him out again. Humph. As for a pretty boy lover like you, if you want to live, it depends on what kind of heavenly treasure you can take out. If it's not good enough, haha. A cold light flashed in old Zhao's eyes. His meaning was self-evident. If it's not good enough, Grandpa will shave off all the flesh on your body, and let you taste the feeling of being dismembered by 1,000 cuts. Let me tell you, Grandpa hates pretty boys the most in my life. Oldly stared at Lin Yi cruelly. Ehe, it seems that you have been hurt by love. What? Have you been robbed by a pretty boy? Lin Yi did not pay attention to him at all and asked calmly. What did you say? What did you pretty boy say? Oldly suddenly lost control of his emotions, and looked like he was about to go berserk on the spot. You really have been hurt by love. Lin Yi was a little surprised. Such a ferocious-looking man had been hurt by love, and it seemed that the hurt was quite deep. It was really unexpected that he was deeply in love. I'm going to kill you. That damn pretty boy. Oldly was about to ruthlessly cut Lin Yi in half. His imposing manner was undeniable. Although he was not at the level of a 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert like Chong Lading, he was obviously a lot stronger than an ordinary profound ascending stage expert. No wonder he did not put Lin Yi in his eyes. However, before Lin Yi could make a move, old Xiao, who was next to him, knocked away old Li's scimitar with his foot. His strength was obviously stronger than old Li. No wonder old Li let him make the decision. Calm down. Let this pretty boy take out the thing first. It's not too late for you to kill him. Old Xiao shouted coldly. Only then did old Li recover, and fiercely put away his scimitar. Hey, aren't your words insulting my intelligence? Lin Yi looked at the two of them with black lines on his face. Who would take out the thing after saying this in front of him? Did these two really think that they had the same IQ as that little girl and I? Haha, I've already said it. Whether you can live or not depends on what kind of treasure you can take out. If you can satisfy us, you naturally won't die. Old Xiao sneered. After all, it's for the treasure? Lin Yi dragged out his words and smiled slightly, pretending to be profound. You two really found the right person. I really have a very good treasure with me. It's on me. Do you want it? Hey pretty boy, you're tactful. Why don't you quickly hand it over? Old Xiao and old Li's eyes lit up when they heard this. They could not wait to urge him. Well, it's on me. Why don't you come and get it yourself? That's good. Lest I take the opportunity to escape, isn't it? Lin Yi shrugged. The two of them looked at each other, and old Xiao immediately said with a smile. All right, seeing that you're so tactful, if the treasure is good, I'll be merciful and let you live. Old Li, search him. Okay, pretty boy, you'd better behave yourself. Stand still and don't move. Don't try to play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll dismember you. Old Li grinned and came over to search Lin Yi's body. However, as soon as his hand touched Lin Yi, his whole body suddenly froze and twitched crazily like a sieve. He could not say a word and just broke dancing on the spot. Old Li, what the hell are you doing? Quickly search him. Old Xiao, who was standing behind, did not understand the situation. He frowned and urged Old Li. Seeing that Old Li still did not respond at all, he immediately raised his hand and slapped Old Li impatiently. He scolded. You idiot, why are you so slow? However, before he could finish his words, Old Xiao himself also began to convulse crazily. His face suddenly revealed a look of horror, and he hurriedly launched his martial skill regardless of everything. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to kick Old Li away, and at the same time, he finally rescued himself from the predicament. Chapter 49:14. You, who the hell are you? Old Xiao stared at Lin Yi as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Although he was no longer convulsing from the electric shock, his whole body was still numb. If he had not clenched his teeth and held on, he would have already fallen to the ground. Didn't you just say that you are this girl's lover, little gigolo? Lin Yi faintly smiled. You are teasing me again. Inai Kaiwa angrily jumped out from behind, but when she was glanced at by old Xiao, she immediately shrank back in fear. A dignified early-stage profound ascending expert only had this little bit of courage. It really made people speechless. Then why is there electricity on your body? Don't tell me you brought some divine weapon? Old Zhao's face was full of fear. He had just stretched out his hand to touch old Li's shoulder. And the result was that there was immediately a fierce power of thunder and lightning entering his body. Although the intensity was not comparable to the thunder tribulation, it was already fatal to him. He was simply scared out of his wits. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough to kick Old Li away. Otherwise, he and Old Li would have become two electrocuted corpses. You guess. Lin Yi faintly smiled. That damn thing was in seclusion at this time. Otherwise it would definitely jump out and sigh. You brat's shameless appearance is quite similar to my charm when I was young. Old Xiao heard this, and almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and sneered. Little gigolo, don't be too proud. I don't know what strange things you are hiding on your body, but as long as I don't touch your body, I think there will be no problem. I have at least 100 ways to kill people from a distance. Do you want to try them all? No, I don't have that much time, I am very busy. Lin Yi waved his hand again and again, with a troublesome expression. Reckless little gigolo, don't get too carried away. Old Owl was choked by Lin Yi and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Although he was Chang Lading's follower in name, His true strength was not much worse than Chang Lading's. It was just that he did not have any background. Otherwise, he would have been able to become one of the 4 young masters of the nascent soul stage. Now he was the same as Chang Lading, a rare 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert. No, I'm just telling the truth. I still have to find my companions. I really can't waste my time here with you. Lin Yi's tone was sincere. Old Li, hurry up and kill this gigolo. Old Owl was furious when he heard this, but he did not do it himself. Instead, he quietly took a step back, fearing that he would be electrocuted by Lin Yi again. Thus he simply let Old Li, this brainless brute, take the lead. As soon as he finished speaking, Old Li immediately waved his long and short machete and rushed over. He already disliked the gigolo, not to mention that he had just suffered a big loss at the hands of Lin Yi. At this time, how could he think so much? He could not wait to immediately cut Lin Yi into 8 pieces. However, before he could rush to the front of Lin Yi, he saw Lin Yi standing in the same place and casually waved his hand. Immediately, a bucket-thick dark blue lightning instantly erupted from his palm and poured into Old Li's head. Old Li did not have the slightest chance to resist. His whole body was emitting black smoke, and his legs collapsed on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Seeing this scene, Old Owl, who was already very afraid, almost peed his pants on the spot. His calves and stomach were trembling crazily. If it was not for his strength being far stronger than an ordinary early-stage profound ascending expert, he would not be able to stand at this time, and would have been paralyzed on the ground. Even Enai Kaiwe, who was hiding behind Lin Yi, was dumbfounded at this time. She looked back and forth between Lin Yi and the smoking Old Li, as if she had seen a ghost. She could not say a word for a long time. Lin Yi did not take it seriously and clapped his hands. In his heart, he thought that he did not suffer so many lightning strikes in vain. Now, even if the power of his lightning strike was not as extraordinary as before, it was already comparable to a normal lightning tribulation. Using it to deal with an ordinary profound ascending expert, he could kill them with one strike. Only a strong person like Lung Rufin could barely contend with it. To be honest, Lin Yi had actually held back. This time, he only struck for a moment and then stopped. Otherwise, if the duration was a little longer, Old Li's whole body would have been charred alive by the lightning strike. As for that strike just now, it was purely the 2 people's fault. Lin Yi did not use lightning strike at all. Just the extra lightning power in his body had already charred them on the outside and tinder on the inside. You, who the hell are you? You can actually trigger lightning tribulation. At this moment, Old Owl's face was pale. He was so scared that he retreated again and again. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Yes, why can you trigger lightning tribulation? Enai Kaiwa also followed and asked. Hearing this, Lin Yi was speechless and rolled his eyes. Which group was this little girl and I from? She actually joined in the fun. Oh, you can't even see the power of lightning, and you still call it lightning tribulation? Lin Yi glanced at Old Owl, crossed his arms and said lightly, I see that you still have a bit of cleverness. You should be able to understand this situation, right? If you have anything good on you, quickly take it out for me. If it can enter my eyes, I promise not to strike you to death. Ah, Old Owl suddenly wanted to cry but had no tears. It was obviously the 2 of them who went to rob others, but in the blink of an eye, it had fallen on his head. How could this be endured? What I'll say the ugly words first. I don't have much patience. You do as you see fit. As Lin Yi spoke, he expressionlessly waved his hand. Don't. Young hero, please spare my life. Old Owl was so scared that his soul almost flew out. He thought that he was about to follow in Old Li's footsteps. As a result, he shrank his neck and waited for a long time, only to find that nothing had happened. Only then did he embarrassedly smile. He did not dare to neglect, and quickly fished out his things. As a result, this guy rummaged inside and out for a long time, and even rummaged out his belongings. In the end, he only fished out a pile of junk. There was nothing good at all. Young hero, I only have these on me. You see, Old Owl embarrassedly handed over a few elixirs with both hands. These were the best things he had on him, but they were only a few useless 6th-grade elixirs. Seeing this, Lenny could not help but be a little speechless. This was a living pauper. As a dignified early-stage mysterious ascending expert, he only had this little wealth. It was simply a pity. If Lenny was a little soft-hearted, he would have helped him instead. Looking at Lin Yi's strange expression, Old Owl could not help but blush. He also felt that this matter was really shameful, but there was really no other way. Not only him, but even Old Li, who was lying on the ground, was also the same. Both of them had some good things that had been plundered by Chang Lading. After all, people under the eaves had to bow their heads. Chapter 49:15. Yes. Old Xiao hurriedly carried Old Li, who was smoking, and hurriedly ran faster than a rabbit, for fear that Lenny would suddenly change his mind. Lenny didn't even look at the two as he turned to Inaikaiwa, who was still hiding behind him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They're long gone. Why are you still hiding? Ran away. Inaikaiwa poked her head out to take a look. Sure enough, Old Xiao and Old Li were nowhere to be seen. She finally breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest and said, "Great, we finally scared them away. These two people are as fierce as Chang Lading." Lenny gave her another sidelong glance. He didn't know whether he should laugh or cry when he was with this Ni girl. But it was also a pleasant surprise at the same time. Every now and then, she'd do something that would make a man's nose bleed. And the main thing was that this girl didn't even know it. "Thank you for helping me, young hero. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble this time." Inaikaiwa thanked Lin Yi with lingering fear. Fortunately, she knew that Lin Yi was here. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have someone to ask for help. The consequences of falling into the hands of Old Xiao and Old Li would be unimaginable. "I say, what's the matter with you? Didn't I just help you get rid of Chang Lading? How did you get caught up again?" Lin Yi asked with some speechlessness. "These two people are called Old Xiao and Old Li. They are with Chang Lading. When they came in, they were with Chang Lading. But I don't know why. When Chang Lading came to chase me, he seemed to get rid of them?" Inaikaiwa tilted her head and said, "This is normal. Chang Lading covets your mysterious cultivation grass. Of course, the fewer people who know about this, the better. Isn't he giving them a share by bringing them to chase you?" Lenny curled his lips. Of course, it was also because Inai Xianu didn't have much combat power, so she surrendered with a simple scare. Otherwise, Chang Lading wouldn't have left these two helpers behind if the situation was more troublesome. So that's how it is. I thought they were lost." Inaikaiwa had a look of sudden realization. "Apart from you, I believe that no one who can come here will get lost easily. You can rest assured about this." Lenny couldn't help but laugh. "Is that so?" Inaikaiwa was stunned for a moment. She didn't realize that Lenny was teasing her. Instead, she nodded in agreement. Lenny shook his head speechlessly. This little chick and I was really silly to a certain level. He could only continue to ask, "They chased you just because they met? Do you have a deep grudge against them? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so irreconcilable, right?" Inaikaiwa was the third fairy, and she was also Chang Lading's cultivation partner in name. As Chang Lading's followers, they shouldn't have attacked her rashly. After I met them, they didn't want to catch me at first. They only asked me where Chang Lading went. In the end, I accidentally let it slip, and they found out about the mysterious cultivation grass. That's why they chased me like crazy. It's too scary." Inaikaiwa was still scared until now. Lenny simply didn't know what to say. This little chick and I was indeed a natural lousy teammate. She could even let this kind of thing slip. She really deserved to be chased. But then again, like underlings. These two underlings of Chang Lading were just like Chang Lading. They were also profit-seeking perverts. Little chick and I was indeed unlucky to meet these two. Alright, they've been chased away anyways. You should be fine now, right? I'm leaving. Lenny looked at Inaikaiwa and was about to leave to find Wang Xinyan and the others. But before he could take a step, Inaikaiwa grabbed his sleeve and in a panic, she tripped her right foot and tore off a part of Lin Yi's sleeve. At the same time, She fell into Lin Yi's embrace. Don't go. Inayat Sayue's first reaction wasn't to push Lin Yi away. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi pitifully. Hey, don't tease me. Lin Yi could only look up at the sky. He couldn't help it. Little chicken eye was squeezed in front of his chest. If he looked down, he would easily see something he shouldn't see. But even so, Lin Yi still had the reaction of a normal man with a soft and fragrant body in his arms. After all, the girl's body was too hot, and he could only shrink back awkwardly. Ah! Enai Kaiwa screamed and pushed Lin Yi away with a blushing face. Nonsense! How can a girl tease a man like you? Who says girls can't tease men? There are female gangsters. Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. Ah, female gangster? Enai Kaiwa was stunned. She tilted her head and thought for a long time before she understood. I'm not a female gangster. Not a female gangster? Then why did you tease me for no reason? You even tore off my sleeve. I just changed into a beggar's uniform. Lin Yi said helplessly. I didn't tease you. I just wanted to hold you. I didn't expect your sleeve to be so weak. Enai Kaiwa pouted. She was the one who tripped herself. Why was she blaming my sleeve for being weak? Lin Yi didn't know what to say in the face of such strong logic. Forget it. Then why did you hold me? I'm afraid they'll come to catch me again. Can you send me back? Enai Kaiwa said pitifully. Send you back? Lin Yi frowned. Not now. I haven't found my companions yet. Then I'll follow you. They won't dare to catch me. Enai Kaiwa said. What? Lin Yi paused. He didn't have any other plans right now, and he'd leave after finding Xinyan and the others. Bringing that Enai girl with him wouldn't be a problem, so he nodded helplessly. Up to you then. Great. You're a good man. Enai Kaiwa was overjoyed. A good man who hides his strength? Lin Yi looked at her. Yes. A good man who hides his strength. Enai Kaiwa nodded. Lin Yi staggered, almost falling to the ground. Meeting a girl with a unique imagination like this, he really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He'd saved her twice in a row. And now he was a good guy who hid his true nature. Did he really look like a bad guy to her? With Enai Kaiwa tagging along, Lin Yi began to look for Wang Xinyan and the others. Of course, he also looked for Xian nurturing grass. Chapter 49:16. Lin Yi! Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's excited shouts came from afar, and Lin Yi turned his head to see the two girls pouncing at him, without a care in the world. Lu Xiaozhong, on the other hand, was far behind them, unable to catch up at all. Xinyan! Xiaoyao! Lin Yi went up to them excitedly, sighing inwardly. Thank goodness that thing was able to restrain the vengeful soul, or he'd be trapped in Lightning Burial City forever. He'd never be able to see his friends again. Are you all right? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao examined Lin Yi from head to toe. There were some minor injuries on him, but they weren't serious. Only then did they relax. The name Thunder Burial was too frightening. They'd been worried about Lin Yi ever since they'd been separated from each other. I'm fine. Look, I'm fine. Lin Yi chuckled, not mentioning the vengeful soul at all. He didn't want the two girls to worry for nothing. Miss Enai, why are you back? Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other in surprise when they noticed Enai Sayue's presence. Wow, Master Lin, you really are a dragon among men. You've managed to hook up with the third goddess in such a short amount of time. Lu Xiaozhong's words made Enai Kaiwa blush. No. He didn't hook up with me, it's me. Enai Kaiwa waved her hands frantically. Then you're the one who hooked up with Master Lin. Lu Xiaozhong slapped his thigh in realization. Haha, no wonder you two got together so quickly. There's a saying that when a girl hooks up with a guy, there's a thin veil between them. Ah, what do you mean by a thin veil? I didn't. Enai Kaiwa blushed. Her face was veiled, but even her ears were red. Then Master Lin did it? Lu Xiaozhong's gossipy soul was burning. He looked back and forth between Lin Yi and Enai Kaiwa, trying to get to the bottom of it. Shoo. What are you talking about? Lin Yi's head started to throb. This Enai girl's pig teammate trait was really quite troublesome. There was clearly nothing wrong with her, but anyone would think that there was something fishy going on with her messy answers. Even Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao had a mischievous look in their eyes. Wouldn't the rice be cooked if they kept guessing blindly? That's right, there's nothing between us. I didn't stab him, and he didn't stab me. Inai Kaiwa angrily defended herself. Holy shit. Upon hearing this, Lenny almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by the more I explain, the worse it gets? This is called the more I explain, the worse it gets. Shut up, I'll say it. Lenny really couldn't stand everyone's meaningful gazes, so he had to personally explain. This chick was chased by two of Chong Lading's lackeys and fled back to this place to ask for help. She happened to meet me, so I helped her out. After that, she didn't dare to leave alone, so she followed me. That's right. That's why we didn't stab each other. Enide Sayua's pig teammate Halo was everywhere, and Lenny could only stare at the sky speechless. Fortunately, everyone understood what had happened, and they looked at each other, not sure if they should laugh or cry. Alright, did you get anything from this trip? Wang Xingyan changed the topic in time. She knew that there was nothing between the two, but she couldn't let Inai Kaiwa continue, or the rice would really be cooked. No, there's only a mass grave. There's not even a single weed, let alone Xian grass. Lenny shook his head with a bitter smile and asked, how about you guys? We didn't find any Xian grasses, but at least we found some valuable herbs. It's better than nothing. Wang Xingyan and the others shook their heads. At the end of the day, Inai Kaiwa was the only one in the group who found Xian grasses. They didn't know if they should say that the girl was extremely lucky, or that she was a fool with a fool's luck. It wasn't an outcome they were willing to accept, but there was nothing they could do about it. This was how rare treasures worked, and only the fated could get them. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter how strong one was. If that's the case, then there's no need to force it. Let's go back. Lenny decided. There was still some time before the 1-month deadline, and he could still try his luck if he didn't want to, but the chances were slim. Staying here would be a waste of time. Alright. Wang Xingyan and the others, naturally, didn't have any objections. You went down to the lightning grave? Isn't there no Xian grasses down there? Didn't they say that there were Xian grasses everywhere? Inai Kaiwa finally realized what was going on and asked Lenny. Lenny looked at her helplessly. He understood now that the rumor that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass was just a rumor. The person who spread the rumor probably hadn't even been to the basin before. They thought that there would be more Xian cultivating grass in the area, but it was just a beautiful misunderstanding. Lenny looked at Lenny helplessly. He knew that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass. Is there or isn't there? Inai Kaiwa asked. There's your sister. Lenny rolled his eyes at her. Huh. I don't have a sister. Inai Kaiwa was stunned for a moment, then she blushed and said, Ah, don't tell me you're talking about my part. Young hero, you're teasing me again. What are you talking about? Lenny looked at her confused. He didn't understand what Inai Kaiwa was talking about, but he understood when he saw her nervously covering her lower body. He glared at her speechless. I'm going to fuck your sister. You really are a pervert. Inai Kaiwa took a few steps back and pointed at Lenny angrily. She looked like she was going to turn around and run at any moment. You're the pervert. Your whole family are perverts. Lenny was so mad at the girl. They were both human, but how could she be so imaginative? My whole family isn't perverts. Inai Kaiwa stuck her neck out and thought about it for a while. She quickly added, I'm not a pervert either. Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao, on the other hand, couldn't help but chuckle at the scene. Lin Yi, who'd always been calm and collected, was losing his mind over and over again in front of this stupid Inai Kaiwa. Lin Yi was speechless. He slapped his forehead and said, I'm such a cheapskate. Why am I arguing with a silly girl like you? I'm not a silly girl. My name is Inai Kaiwa. Inai Kaiwa clarified with a serious face. Chapter 49:17. How can you be a silly girl? Inai Kaiwa stared at him blankly and suddenly exclaimed, Ah, so you are a girl. I thought you were a man. Your disguise is so good. There is no flaw at all. Shit. Lenny was speechless, and Xingyan and the others were rocking back and forth with laughter. Lu Xiaozhong was on the ground, punching the ground as hard as he could, tears coming out of his eyes. I can't talk to you. I'm leaving. Are you coming or not? Lenny was too lazy to continue talking to this silly girl. If he continued, he might really suffer from internal injuries. Let's go, take me out, heroine. Kaiwa nodded like a chick pecking rice, and hurriedly followed. Heroine? Lenny staggered and fell to the ground. He was a man. When did he become a heroine? You don't like to be called heroine? Kaiwa looked at him strangely, and muttered to herself. Since I am a girl, of course I am a heroine. That is what Master taught me. Forget it. Since you don't like it, I will call you sister, or sister is fine too. Lenny had gone completely insane, and Xingyan and the others were laughing so hard that they didn't even have the energy to help him. Things were getting interesting now. The world no longer had a young hero Lin, but a little sis Lin. Girl, listen to me. I am a man, a real man, not a heroine, and definitely not a sister or sister. Lenny had to clarify weakly. Talking to this silly girl was really a troublesome thing. He really couldn't keep up with her strange thinking. Then why do you call yourself a silly girl? You are such a strange person. Kaiwa looked up and down at Lenny, as if she was watching a pervert. Lenny pointed at her for a long time, choked, and finally gave up the idea of clarifying himself, and said helplessly, Are you going or not? So much nonsense. Let's go. Of course we're going. I've been wanting to go back for a long time. Kaiwa nodded. Then what's in it for me? Lenny suddenly thought of something. He stopped and turned to look at her meaningfully. Benefits. Kaiwa was stunned for a moment. She suddenly exclaimed, and covered her chest with both hands. She looked at Lenny with a vigilant face and stammered. You, what benefits do you want? Master said that I would rather die than obey him. Lenny was speechless. He held his forehead and said helplessly, What are you thinking about? As a chick, can your thoughts be a little more pure? You're teasing me again. Kaiwa looked at Lenny angrily. Lenny's temper had always been good, but dealing with this silly chick, he had already lost count of how many times he wanted to go crazy. He hurriedly took a deep breath to calm himself down, and went straight to the point. Let's not talk so much. Let me ask you, after you take out the profound nurturing grass, who are you going to find to help you refine the profound nurturing pill? Of course I'll hand it over to Master. Then she'll find the Academy's alchemists. The others don't know how to refine the profound nurturing pill. Kaiwa said as a matter of fact. Then what price do you have to pay? Lenny asked again. Price? Kaiwa subconsciously covered her chest again, and said with a vigilant face. Master won't let me do that kind of thing. I won't do it even if I die. Everyone burst into laughter again. This silly chick was really a clown. Lenny said with a black face. Who said that kind of thing? I'm saying that even if it's your Academy's alchemists, they won't refine pills for you for free. There must be a price, right? Oh, so you're referring to this. Kaiwa then reacted. After thinking for a while, she said, I heard Master mention it before. It seems that after the pill is refined, half will be given. If the refinement fails, then there's nothing left. Then how many profound nurturing pills can you refine from this profound nurturing grass? Lenny asked again. This. Kaiwa tilted her head, and thought for a long time. She carefully took out the profound nurturing grass from her bosom, and gestured with her hands. After a long time, she looked at Lenny foolishly and said uncertainly, It seems like it's enough for 4 portions? If my luck is good, I might be able to refine 4 profound nurturing pills. 4 portions of ingredients, and you want to refine 4 profound nurturing pills? Your Academy's alchemists have such great confidence in refining a 7th grade medicinal pill. Could it be that it's an absolute success? Lenny asked suspiciously. What's an absolute success? Kaiwa tilted her head, and thought for a long time. She roughly guessed Lin Yi's meaning, and shook her head repeatedly. That's definitely impossible. Only if my luck is very good can I refine 4 pills. Normally, it's already not bad to refine 1 or 2. Since that's the case, Then I'll refine it for you. I guarantee that I'll give you 3 profound nurturing pills. What do you think? Linny suggested. Are you serious? You're lying to me, right? Inai Kaiwa was shocked when she heard that. She wasn't really stupid. Even the Academy's head alchemists wouldn't dare to boast about this. Normal people wouldn't rashly believe a stranger that they had only met once. This fellow couldn't be trying to swindle her of the profound nurturing grass, right? Inai Kaiwa hurriedly covered her chest again and looked at Lin Yi with a face of vigilance. Why would I lie to you? Lin Yi glanced at her helplessly and said indifferently, if I was really aiming for your profound nurturing grass, I could just directly snatch it. Why would I need to go through so much trouble? Think about it yourself. Those mere weaklings chased you until you were in such dire straits. If I really wanted to snatch it from you, how much trouble do you think it would take? This, Inai Kaiwa thought about it seriously for a moment. It seemed that what he said made sense. Suddenly, her small face tensed up and she said, even so, you can't snatch it. I don't even want to snatch it, Linny said with a black face. If it wasn't for the sake of getting a few profound nurturing pills for himself and the others, he swore that he definitely wouldn't talk nonsense with this silly girl. It would really make him anxious to death. Oh, that's good. But can you really refine profound nurturing pills? You don't even have a beard. Inai Kaiwa questioned again. Whether or not I can refine profound nurturing pills, and whether or not I have a beard. What's the connection between these two things? Linny couldn't help but be a little dazed when he heard that. Of course there's a connection. 7th grade alchemists are all white-bearded grandfathers. You're not one. Inai Kaiwa said matter-of-factly. Damn. Linny almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Talking to this silly girl was really a matter that broke through the horizon. Even when he was facing the vengeful spirit, he didn't have such a headache. To be honest, he really had the urge to leave now. What bullshit profound nurturing pills, who cares? Chapter 49:18. Inai Kaiwa didn't have any more shocking ideas this time. She tilted her head and thought for a long time, then looked at Linny and said, Can you bring me along without refining pills? No. Linny answered cleanly. He couldn't talk too much with this silly girl, or he would get angry easily. Okay then. Inai Kaiwa didn't really believe that Linny could really refine pills, but she was more afraid of going out alone. Although the spirit-nurturing grass was precious, it shouldn't be a problem to use it as travel expenses, right? If others knew what Inai Kaiwa was thinking at this time, they would be so angry that they would kill themselves. A good thing that a group of profound ascending stage masters couldn't even get their hands on was actually used as travel expenses. There should be a limit to wasting natural resources. But no matter what, this spirit-nurturing grass was finally handed over to Linny. Linny couldn't help but look at her with some surprise. Although this silly girl could easily choke people to death, it wasn't without its benefits. At least if it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't hand over the spirit-nurturing grass so easily. You guys wait here and keep watch for me, Linny said, and found a relatively quiet place with the spirit-nurturing grass. He calmed himself down and started refining pills. All the supplementary materials needed to refine the profound raising pill were already prepared in the storage of spiritual herbs in the space within the jade pendant. This was also the reason why he suddenly made this suggestion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thought of Inai Hong. He's refining pills like this? Inai Kaiwa glanced at Linny from afar and said with a strange expression, Is he really trying to cheat me of this spirit-nurturing grass? He doesn't even have a cauldron. How is he going to refine pills? Liar. He really isn't lying. He always carries a cauldron with him. Wang Xingyan smiled. Really? But he's clearly empty-handed? Inai Kaiwa hadn't finished speaking when she saw a cauldron appear in front of Lin Yi. She was stunned and rubbed her eyes desperately. Am I seeing things? Where did that stove come from? Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other and smiled. It was one thing for Wang Xingyan to see it, but they couldn't say it out loud. In fact, Lu Xiaozhong didn't understand either. With a puzzled expression he said, Master Lin is indeed Master Lin. He can even carry an alchemy furnace with him. And it's so amazing. As expected of Grandmaster Qing Danzi's master. He has an apprentice? Enai Kaiwa was even more shocked as she doubted. He's accepting disciples at such a young age? Isn't he afraid of misleading them? Misleading students? Lu Xiaozhong glanced at her disdainfully and said, Master Qing Danzi is our Morning Star Academy's chief alchemist. A genuine level 7 alchemist. Even he is willing to become a disciple of Master Lin. Do you think this is misleading the students? Enai Tsayue's mouth instantly formed an O shape. She was stunned for a long time before she weakly said, I don't go out much, don't lie to me. You'll know soon enough if I'm lying or not. Come, let's find a place to sit and talk while we wait. Xinyan smiled. Oh. Enai Kaiwa nodded obediently. Perhaps it was because of Xinyan's natural friendliness, but she didn't have any wariness towards Xinyan at all. She naturally felt close to Xinyan, and didn't suspect anything like she did with Lin Yi. The group of people sat in the distance and waited. After 6 hours, Enai Kaiwa had completely become familiar with Xinyan and the others. She called each other big sister and little sister. Both Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao were very close to her. After all, her silly and cute personality was very lovable. Of course, this didn't include the crazy Lin Yi. Yo, you guys are eating. Give me some. Lin Yi suddenly squeezed his butt in. Lu Xiaozhong hurriedly handed over the barbecued meat in his hand. This was a small spirit beast that he had caught nearby. The meat was fresh and tender, and the texture was very good. He thought that Lin Yi's alchemy would take a long time, so he decided to have an outdoor barbecue. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would finish before they even started eating. You finished refining it so quickly? Are you lying to me? Enai Kaiwa jumped up with an expression, as if her intelligence had been severely insulted. She said angrily, Even if you're lying to me, you should at least be serious. How can refining a mysterious raising pill be this fast? Even the alchemists in our school need a few days. Lin Yi didn't pay attention to her at all. As he ate the barbecued meat, he freed a hand in front of Enai Kaiwa. What? Enai Kaiwa jumped in fright. She quickly crossed her arms in front of her chest to protect herself. She pitifully begged, If you're lying to me, then lie to me. Can you not hit me? Lin Yi choked, almost choking to death on the spot. He struggled for a long time before opening his palms. Who's going to hit you? See for yourself. Oh. Enai Kaiwa responded weakly. When she saw the thing in Lin Yi's hand, she was immediately stunned. She stuttered, This is a mysterious raising pill? 3 mysterious raising pills? At least you're not that stupid. Here, keep it yourself. I won't care if you lose it. Lin Yi casually threw the 3 pills to Enai Kaiwa, making the silly girl panic. She only managed to catch them after a moment of confusion. She looked at them with surprise and joy before carefully putting them away. There was only 1 stalk of mysterious raising grass, which was only enough for 4 sets of ingredients. But in a short 6 hours, 3 mysterious raising pills were made. This result shocked Enai Kaiwa. But what made her even more speechless was that Lin Yi gave Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao 1 each. That wasn't all. Lin Yi still had 2 in his hands. This meant that he'd made 7 mysterious raising pills in one go. Enai Kaiwa was going crazy. She had never seen the world before, but she knew what this meant. 4 sets of ingredients to make 7 mysterious raising pills. What kind of person was this? At this time, she looked at Lin Yi as if she was looking at a monster. Although she was far away, and had been chatting with Wang Xinyan and the others, she didn't see the specific process of Lin Yi's pill making. But this wasn't important. Just this result alone was enough to shock the world. Young hero, who are you learning from? Why are you so powerful? Enai Kaiwa couldn't help but ask. Although she felt that Lin Yi was very powerful when he defeated Chang Lading, Old Xiao, and Old Li with ease. After all, these were not ordinary early-stage profound ascension masters. They were all strong people who could challenge above their level. It was not easy for Lin Yi to defeat them so easily. But all this only made her feel that he was powerful. She had never been so shocked. Chapter 49-19. Didn't I tell you long ago that I'm from the North Island? Why are you so dull? Is your memory bad? Linny glanced at her and said, You. Kaiwa was so anxious that she didn't know how to refute. She tilted her head and thought for a long time. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said, I remember now. What? You finally remember that I said I'm from the North Island? Your reflex arc is really long, Linny said with a smile, somewhat speechless. No. I remember Master once said that there's a very powerful super expert in the North Island. His name seems to be. Kaiwa choked halfway. What's his name? The first person that came to Lin Yi's mind at this moment was Ram Jia, the head of the law enforcement hall. This legendary figure of the young generation in the North Island had given Lin Yi a strong and inexplicable pressure since the first time he heard of him. He was also a figure that he secretly vowed to surpass in the future. But on second thought, Lin Yi knew that he was thinking too much. He thought of Ram Jia purely because he was a goal that he had to surpass. It was impossible for Ram Jia's fame to be so well known even in Dongzhou. Not to mention others, there should be many people in the North Island who were stronger than Ram Jia. For example, Lan Tiefu, the eldest senior brother, who was in charge of the inner gate of Soaring Pavilion. Judging from his performance in the face of the new Azure Dragon, this person's strength should not be weaker than Ram Jia, let alone those super big shots standing at the top. Shengguan Tianhua. Yes, it's Shengguan Tianhua. Kaiwa clapped her hands excitedly and looked at Lin Yi with shining eyes. Young hero, you're so powerful that even people like Chang Lading are no match for you. You're invincible at the same level, and you're also a super alchemist. You must be a disciple of Shengguan Tianhua, right? Lin Yi smiled secretly. Sure enough, it was Shanghai Tianhua. Ren Zhongyuan and others were impressed by him during the trial in the West Island because of his name. It could be seen that this super big shot was not simple. Otherwise, if it was just the name of the head of Soaring Pavilion, it would at most shock the North Island. It was impossible for him to be so famous in Dongzhou. Congratulations, you're right. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't want to deny it. After all, it would be troublesome to explain. He might as well not explain. It wasn't wrong to say it. Sure enough, I heard from Master that Shanghai Tianhua is a big shot who left a legend in Dongzhou. His strength is so strong that it makes people's hair stand on end. Young hero, you're his disciple. You're so powerful. Enide Sayue's eyes were full of little stars of worship. He used to be a legend in Dongzhou, hee. Lin Yi couldn't help laughing. This was not a surprising thing. Except for the spirit beasts, almost all the big shots on the other Heaven Stage Islands had studied in Dongzhou. It was normal for them to leave a legend. But Lin Yi was still a little surprised. Speaking of which, Lin Yi had met Shanghai Tianhua many times. Because of Shanghai Laner, they were familiar with each other, and it was widely rumored that he was Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple. But Lin Yi knew very little about this super big shot in the North Island, and he knew nothing about his past. This was the first time he learned about it from Kaiwa. No. Kaiwa suddenly shook her head. Shanghai Tianhua doesn't seem to be an elixir refiner. You're so good at it, he didn't teach you, did he? Oh, then who do you think taught me? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Xinyan and the others. She'd already admitted that she was right, but she herself was wrong. Talking to this NI girl was too much of a hassle. Kaiwa tilted her head and thought for a while. She smacked her head and said, I remember now. I heard that there's a very powerful elixir god Zhang Liju from the North Island. Are you his disciple? Congratulations on getting 2 answers. Your smart IQ has taken the high ground again. Lin Yi was like a hoodwinker. I'm actually quite smart. Kaiwa raised her head proudly. After a while she blinked and asked, What is IQ? What high ground? It's nothing. It doesn't have much to do with you. Lin Yi's words made Xinyan giggle. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Yi. She was the only one who understood what he meant. Oh, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with me. Kaiwa followed his advice. This time, it wasn't just Xinyan. Even Lin Yi himself was amused. Seeing the confused look on Xinyan's face, he quickly put on a serious face. Shengguan Tianhua, Zhang Liju, whose disciple am I? I know. You're their disciple. Enai Kaiwa couldn't wait to answer. Congratulations. You know how to answer first. Linny gave her a thumbs up with a face full of respect. Facing this kind of dumb girl, his hidden great trickster attribute was brought out completely. Everything else aside, the sounds of laughter and chatting along the way were quite entertaining. The five of them returned to the teleportation point. Since they took the main road, they didn't encounter any accidents. They didn't even see a spirit beast. As for the students, they all stayed far away from them. After all, no one was deliberately hiding their strength. The five of them were all early-stage mysterious ascendant experts. This kind of powerful lineup was almost invincible in the path of giants. No one dared to provoke them, or else they might be killed and robbed. This kind of thing was too common. 2 days later, Lin Yi's group finally returned to the teleportation point. The other students all made way for them. Very soon they were teleported out. Coming out of the teleportation formation was the dock. At this time, there were less than half of the battleships and ships that were docked here. However, the academies that didn't have all of their disciples would naturally stay here and wait. After a month, they would have to leave regardless of whether all of their disciples had arrived or not. This was the rule of the Golden Step Academy's alliance. Young warrior, I understand now. You're actually a very good person. Enai Kaiwa suddenly turned to Lin Yi. After leaving the teleportation point, they would naturally return to their own ships and forget about each other. Is that so? It's not easy to hear something nice from you. Lin Yi said with a chuckle. It was rare that he didn't use a preamble to hide his feelings. Congratulations. Yes, I'll remember you. Enai Kaiwa nodded. Chapter 49-20. I will always remember you. Enai Kaiwa repeated. However, before Lin Yi could be moved, this silly girl suddenly blinked and said, What's your name again? I'm going to faint. You don't even know my name. How are you going to remember it? Lin Yi almost fell. Under the laughter of Wang Xinyan and the others, he could only helplessly smile and say, My name is Lin Yi. Lin Yi, why does it sound so ordinary? I thought it was a very powerful name. Enai Kaiwa pouted. There's such a thing as powerful or not. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he heard such a novel and unique way of saying it. Of course, but Lin Yi is Lin Yi. I'll remember it. Enai Kaiwa smiled slightly and said, Then let's meet at the Xuanjiesi area. At that time, we can be friends. Don't. In my eyes, women can only be girlfriends, so forget it, Lin Yi joked. Ah, you're teasing me again. Enai Kaiwa suddenly blushed again. However, she was wearing a veil, so others couldn't see it. You're too sensitive. This is called teasing? Alright, hurry up and go. The people in your academy are calling you. Lin Yi smiled and reminded her. At this time, someone on a treasure ship in the distance was waving at him. Looking at the flag, it was Donghua Academy, where Enai Kaiwa was from. Oh, then I'm leaving. But don't tease me again next time. Enai Kaiwa hurriedly waved her hand at the people on the treasured vessel, and she was about to turn around and leave in high spirits. However, she just turned around when she saw a face that was gloomy like water, and she was instantly shocked and cried out involuntarily. Chang Lading. You didn't expect it, right? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Chang Lading sneered. At this moment, Lao Xiao was still behind him, but there was no Lao Li. After being struck by Lin Yi's lightning, which was comparable to the thunder retribution, although he showed mercy and did not kill him on the spot, it was impossible for him to get out of bed without lying down for a few months. On the contrary, the sudden appearance of Chang Lading here made Lin Yi somewhat surprised. This guy's injury was not as serious as Lao Li. After all, Lin Yi only used him to test his moves at that time, and he only tested the 4 attribute martial technique. But how many days had it been? This guy was actually as lively as a dragon, and as lively as a tiger. Apart from some scars on his body, his movements were completely normal. It seemed that he must have taken some top-grade tonic, like the Great Revitalizing Pill. Otherwise, It would be impossible for him to recover so quickly just by relying on conventional healing methods. Don't come over. Inai Kaiwa was frightened and panicked. She subconsciously hid behind Lin Yi. Chang Lading's gloomy face suddenly turned darker. Some of the academy's disciples around who knew the inside story whispered. Inai Kaiwa was not only the third fairy of Gaolin Sea area, but also the Taoist companion of Chang Lading. But now, in order to hide from Chang Lading, she fled behind another man. This scene was really weird. There was no shortage of people gossiping everywhere. In just a moment, a heart-wrenching love triangle story intertwined with love and hate had been fresh out of the oven and instantly spread throughout the audience. Listening to these off-key whispers, Chang Lading was about to explode. He pointed at Lin Yi and said angrily, "Little bastard, I finally found you. Great. Not only did you sneak attack me inside, you even dared to seduce my Taoist companion in front of everyone. Do you know who I am?" Actually, Chang Lading's style was not to use his power to suppress others. Under normal circumstances, he would first cripple the opponent, and then show off his powerful background. Only then would he be able to fully display his power, as one of the 4 young masters of nascent soul realm. But this time he could not do it. The previous fight had shown the difference in strength between the two sides. Chang Lading was not a fool. No matter how arrogant he was, he knew that he was no match for Lin Yi. Therefore, he could only change his way of thinking and directly use his powerful background to suppress others. Aren't you Chang Lading? Didn't we just meet a few days ago? I'm not that forgetful. What else do you want? Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently. It's good that you know. I'm not afraid to tell you that I am the son of the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy, Zhang Zili. Chang Lading said arrogantly. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden uproar. The chief alchemist of any academy was a big shot, at least in the top 5 of the academy. However, under normal circumstances, no matter how high the position of the chief alchemist was, he could only be ranked second, just below the dean of the academy. However, this Tripod City Academy was extremely special. The position of the chief alchemist was higher than that of the dean. This was because this was an academy that focused on alchemy. At least half of the academy's students were alchemists. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Tripod City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists. To be able to become the chief alchemist of such an academy, one's status was far above that of other Yellow Steppe academies. In the East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region, this academy was practically the banner of all alchemists. Whether it was status or influence, it was no small matter. However, Lin Yi didn't know about this. To be precise, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, even a 7th-grade alchemist like Qing Danzi was willing to be his disciple. Even if this Tripod City Academy was the cradle of alchemists, there was no way that a 7th-grade alchemist would be willing to be someone else's disciple. Oh, your father's surname is Zhang, but your surname is Chang? You're the latter? Lin Yi's focus was a little more unique, and he even revealed an expression of curiosity and gossip. Hearing this, Chang Lading almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He said angrily, "That's my mother." "Oh, I see. So the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy is a woman. Sorry about that." Lin Yi smiled without sincerity. Then he cooperated and asked, "What about your father?" I'm going to say it now. You'd better be careful and stand firm, or you'll be scared to the ground by me. That would be too embarrassing," Chang Lading said with a disdainful look. "Oh, I'm listening. Don't worry about me. I've always been open-minded. Come and scare me." Lin Yi smiled faintly, as if he was asking for a slap in the face. This little bastard really deserved a beating. Seeing this scene, Chang Lading was so angry that his teeth hurt. However, he didn't dare to attack directly. He could only continue to put on a disdainful look and said, "Listen up, my father is the mayor of Tripod City." Suddenly, there was another round of exclamations. However, Lin Yi had a look of realization on his face. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Oh, I understand. Your Tripod City Academy is a small place in the countryside. Other academies are cities, but yours is a town." Chapter 49:21. Although from the name, the standard of Cauldron Town seemed to be a little lower than the main cities of those academies. But don't forget that Cauldron City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists, and Cauldron Town was the holy land of alchemists in the Yellow Class C region. Almost all the alchemists in the Yellow Class C region had to go there for a pilgrimage, and its status was extraordinary. In fact, although it was called Cauldron Town, its overall size was bigger than the main cities of those academies. The so-called Cauldron Town was just its most core area, a holy land of alchemists that no one could enter. Not only was Cauldron Town not small, but because of its super strong influence as the holy land of alchemists, it could even compete with Thunder City, where the headquarters of the Yellow Class Academy Alliance was located. The position of its town lord, even among the city lords of all the Yellow Class Academy main cities, was also among the best. Such a holy land of alchemists with such a high status was actually said to be a small place in the countryside. How could those who really came from small places endure this? Why yeah. I'm so angry. Little bastard, you're courting death. Someone cripple him for me. Chong Lading stomped his feet and cursed. While speaking, he himself did not make a move. First, he knew that he could not beat Lin Yi, and second, there was no need for him to do it himself. There were many people who were willing to take care of Lin Yi for him. Of course, this certainly did not include old Xiao. In front of Lin Yi, he could only piss his pants in terror. Even if he had the heart, he did not have the strength. Sure enough, as soon as Chong Lading's voice fell, two profound ascension late-stage experts with extraordinary aura suddenly flashed beside him. More and more onlookers quickly made way for them. Although many of them were already new Profound Ascension early-stage experts, compared to these two senior Profound Ascension late-stage experts, there was still too much of a difference. Just this cold aura alone made people feel afraid, and they did not dare to cross the line. Bold madman, you dare to sneak attack young Master Chong in the trial, and now you are boasting shamelessly in public to slander my Cauldron City Academy. You're not going to surrender. One of them frowned and shouted, "Who are you people?" Lin Yi's expression did not change in the slightest, as he sized up the two Profound Ascension late-stage experts who had suddenly appeared. Although their auras were strong and powerful, they should not be fake goods. However, he could clearly feel that the auras of these two people were a little rough. It seemed that they were not people who often fought, at least not very good at it. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong at all. These two were the libationers of Cauldron City, and they were high-level refiners as well. Naturally, they didn't spar with people like the other mystical late-phase masters, and it was inevitable that their auras were a bit rough. Humph. We are the libation of the Tripod City Academy. Which academy are you from? Hurry up and tell us your name. The two of them said in a condescending tone. With Chong Lading's powerful background, these two ordinary Grand Chancellors could only curry favor with him. Of course, they had to put on a good performance at this time. However, they couldn't just attack without saying anything. They had to put on a big hat for Lin Yi first. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, they would have the reputation of bullying the weak. That would tarnish the reputation of Cauldron City Academy. Me? Didn't Chong Lading tell you? Lin Yi glanced at Chong Lading in surprise. Chong Lading's face immediately turned red. He had only asked these two to teach Lin Yi a lesson to vent his anger. As for the details of what happened on the path of a tyrant, he would not go into detail. After all, it would be too embarrassing. The two Grand Chancellors froze for a moment. When they saw Chong Lading's expression, they immediately knew that something was wrong. They quickly changed their words. No matter which academy you are from, you dare to slander our Cauldron City Academy in public. Just based on this alone, we cannot let you off easily. We can keep your life, but we must cripple your cultivation today as a warning to others. You are too much. Hearing this, Wang Xingyan could no longer hold it in. She immediately stepped forward. The aura of an early-stage Profound Ascension expert was unmistakable. Not only her, but Huang Xiaotao and Lu Xiaozhong also revealed their strength. In this way, including Lin Yi himself, there were a total of 4 early-stage mystical ascension masters. Although it was not worth mentioning in front of the two late-stage mystical ascension masters, the atmosphere still became very tense. Do you want to have your cultivation crippled as well? If you ruin your future in a moment of impulse, you can only live in the darkness and helplessness for the rest of your lives. Hurry up and back off. The two Grand Chancellors frowned when they saw the situation. They did not think that these people were very strong when they teamed up. In fact, if they really fought, for early-stage profound ascension experts wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from them. However, if things really developed to that point, there would be repercussions. Because of Lin Yi's rudeness, the two of them had crippled his cultivation in front of everyone. This was not something that could be criticized. But if they were to cripple four new early-stage profound ascension experts, and they seemed to be from the same academy, then there would be a huge enmity. Once things got out of hand, the Cauldron City Academy would definitely have to give an explanation, and this black pot could only be placed on the two of them. After all, they couldn't push the blame onto Chang Lading, could they? Tisk TSK. I didn't think that the Cauldron City Academy would be so tyrannical. I thought that only the Leidong Academy was like this. Today is really an eye-opener. Lu Xiaozhong was a person who wished for the whole world to be in chaos. Not only was he not afraid at this time, he even went to provoke the other side. At most, it would be a chaotic battle. He had seen this kind of scene many times. Kid, you better be careful with your words. We only didn't want to make a move, because you are all students of the same academy. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The Grand Chancellor of the Cauldron City Academy said coldly. I'm so scared. Lu Xiaozhong shouted with an exaggerated face. That expression really deserved a beating no matter how you looked at it. It was like his father Lu Dachang had inherited it. Die! The two Grand Chancellors were so angry that their mouths were crooked. If it weren't for the last bit of rationality, they would have slapped Lu Xiaozhong to death. This kid was too hateful. Your academy is really powerful, wanting to cripple someone's cultivation without any reason. Do you really think that our Morning Star Academy is easy to bully? Wang Xingyan quickly stood up and said, not daring to let Lu Xiaozhong talk nonsense anymore. After all, they were facing two late-stage profound ascension masters. If they were to fight, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. The best solution today was to bring up the name of the Morning Star Academy, so that the other side wouldn't dare to act rashly. After all, in terms of strength, the Morning Star Academy was considered a top-tier existence among the Golden Stage Academies. Chapter 49-22. What's there to be afraid of? That little bastard is from the North Island. He's not from the Morning Star Academy. Chang Lading snorted in dissatisfaction. From the North Island? The two Tripod City Academy chancellors froze for a moment, then felt relieved. A mere disciple from the North Island wouldn't be a problem, even if he was killed on the spot, let alone crippling his cultivation. Would Shanghai Tianhua come all the way to the East Continent, just for a disciple from the North Island? You guys listen up. Today we will only punish this insolent kid. If anyone else interferes, don't blame us for being merciless. The two chancellors' expressions turned serious, and they were about to attack Lin Yi. Wang Xingyan and the others' hearts sank, and they quickly tried to block in front of Lin Yi. But Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. You guys go back and watch the show. I'm just about to get some exercise. Huh. Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao looked at each other stunned. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't nervous at all, they looked at each other and retreated. Although they had faith in Lin Yi's strength, a profound ascending early stage against two profound ascending late stage. Wasn't the difference a little too big? As for Lu Xiaozhong, he retreated quickly. He wasn't stupid, and although he wasn't afraid of trouble, it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of death. Since Lin Yi said that he only needed to watch the show, he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to be cannon fodder. Hee, a mere disciple from the North Island sure has a big mouth. The two chancellors laughed when they heard this. They thought that Lin Yi was a frog at the bottom of a well who had never seen the world. He was the king of a small place like the North Island, and he thought that he would be invincible in the East continent. He was really stupid to a certain extent. Daydreams would always be broken one day, and today was the perfect time to wake him up. Seeing that Chang Lading had already revealed an impatient expression, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately leaped up and were about to attack Lin Yi. However, before the two of them could take their stances, Lin Yi suddenly raised his hand and shouted coldly, "Thousand thunder explosions!" As late-stage profound ascension experts, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy displayed extreme contempt towards Lin Yi's moves. However, before the contempt could even be seen on their faces, the two of them suddenly twitched and fell to the ground, a thick dark blue lightning pillar on top of their heads. Hiss! The sound of people gasping in unison rose and fell, and it was continuous and unending. They didn't have time to do anything, and the two late-stage mystical ascension masters were lying on the ground with black smoke coming out of them. Everyone looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. Was this guy really a mystical ascension master? Could this guy be a spirit beast? Someone couldn't help but whisper. It's possible. No, it should be very possible. Even if a human cultivator has a lightning attribute spiritual root, it's still impossible for him to release such a powerful lightning strike. It's almost at the level of a lightning tribulation. Oh no, this is even stronger than a lightning tribulation. Someone immediately echoed. Yes, a human cultivator can actually release a lightning tribulation. I've never heard of it before. Those powerful lightning attribute spirit beasts are more like it. I heard that not only are there lightning eagles, but there's also the legendary thunder dragon. Could this guy be a thunder dragon? Someone immediately had a brainwave. Yes, and you still say that he's from the North Island. When did the people of the North Island become so powerful? It's impossible. It must be the thunder attribute spirit beast inside that couldn't bear the loneliness and came out to fish in troubled waters. That must be it. Someone else said confidently. That makes sense. The teleportation circle here only has a one-way restriction. Although only original soul stage masters can enter, there's no restriction on strength. It's completely possible. Everyone quickly came to a conclusion, listening to the whispers of the people around them. Wang Xingyan and Huang Xiaotao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although they were also shocked by Lin Yi's sudden burst of power, they still thought that he was a thunder attribute spirit beast. What were they thinking? Oh, so he's the legendary thunder dragon. No wonder he's so powerful. Enide Sayue's eyes lit up. She agreed with this statement. Wang Xingyan and the others were completely shocked by her. She had just helped him concoct the profound raising pill. How could he be the legendary thunder dragon? Could it be that a thunder dragon could become an alchemist? This girl's brain was really different from normal people. However, Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to the discussions around him. He was completely immersed in the joy of the 1,000 lightning explosions. The one who was most shocked by the 1,000 lightning explosions wasn't the spectators, but himself. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was a new technique that he had come up with on the way here. The origin of this technique came from the thunder dragon. Everyone was right about this. Before this, Lin Yi's thunder and lightning energy was many times stronger than before. However, he hadn't truly grasped the essence of it. The way he attacked was simple and plain. To put it bluntly, he just let the thunder and lightning energy in his body pour out in torrents. There was no technique to speak of. This was like a wealthy man who obviously had too much money at home, but he would only use it like an ordinary person to feed and clothe himself. Apart from that, he didn't know how to spend so much money. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. When he first received the thunder inheritance, Lin Yi only knew how to use arcs of electricity. Now that his thunder and lightning energy had grown many times stronger, the so-called lightning strike he mastered was actually a magnified version of arcs of electricity. There was no difference between the two. With Lin Yi's comprehension, he quickly realized that there was a problem. However, it wasn't easy for Lin Yi to figure out what the problem was. He needed advice from an expert. Unfortunately, The giant eel that gave him the thunder inheritance had long since perished. That ghost didn't specialize in thunder and lightning, so it was difficult for it to give him any advice. That was until he went to Thunder Burial City. The vengeful spirits Yuan Shun controlled the Thunder Dragon's corpse to use a few bolts of purple lightning. While it made Lenny suffer a lot, it also benefited him a lot. Not only did the thunder and lightning energy in his body become stronger, but it also gave him the opportunity to take a peek at some tricks. To be able to reach such a level of purple lightning, it was definitely not a simple superposition of the power of thunder and lightning. If that was the case, at most, it would be dark blue. With the thunder and lightning energy in Lin Yi's body, it was more than enough to deal with Chang Lading and the others. However, once he faced a real master, he wouldn't even need to face a master of the mountain opening stage. Just a master of the profound ascending stage would be difficult to deal with. Chapter 49-23. When lightning strikes could not kill people, the threat would naturally be greatly reduced, and it was very likely to return to the previous embarrassing situation, where it could only be used to restrain and harass, but could not become a truly powerful killing move. Fortunately, Lin Yi had learned a trick from the long-dead Lei Long. He discovered that the opponent's purple lightning was far from a simple superposition of the power of lightning, but there were clear signs of some lightning particles colliding. The difference was very subtle, and even with Lin Yi's observation skills, it was hard for him to notice it right away. But this wasn't the first time he'd been struck by lightning. He'd been struck by lightning so many times, and he'd had a taste of the purple lightning. Without a doubt, other than the difference in the strength of the lightning, the most fundamental difference was the collision of the lightning particles. However, understanding was just understanding. Wanting to grasp such an exquisite and profound skill in an instant was not realistic. After all, Lin Yi himself was just a beginner who had barely learned lightning strikes, and it was impossible for him to directly reach the level of Lei Long in one step. However, he could follow this train of thought and use his own method to transform the lightning strike bit by bit to become more powerful. The Thousand Thunderbolt explosion was the first step that Lin Yi had taken, integrating the violent Sand Thousand Explosive Fist technique into the lightning strike, and thus came the shocking Thousand Thunderbolt explosion just now. Of course, it could also be called the Violent Lightning Thousand Explosive Fist, but Lin Yi clearly liked the Thousand Thunderbolt explosion more. It was awe-inspiring and imposing. All kinds of discussions could be heard from the surroundings. Most of them actually did not see what happened clearly. They only saw a thick dark blue lightning flash in front of their eyes, and then two profound ascension late-stage experts lay down straight with black smoke rising from their bodies. But this did not hinder their imagination. For a time, all kinds of strange theories were clamoring. In contrast, the theory that Lin Yi was the incarnation of Lei Long was already considered reliable, and even more outrageous was that Lin Yi was the incarnation of the power of lightning, and even said that Lin Yi was the illegitimate child of the god of thunder and the goddess of lightning. Lin Yi was speechless. He couldn't help but want to point at these people's noses and scold them for being so superstitious. The spectators at the side were only discussing amongst themselves. Chang Lading, who was only a few steps away from the two chancellors, was so scared that he peed his pants. His heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, he had learned his lesson last time, and had the self-awareness to let these two unlucky chancellors act on his behalf. Otherwise, he would have been hacked into pieces on the spot. Young Master Chang, what do you think we should do next? Lin Yi cracked his knuckles maliciously. The dark blue electric arcs jumping on his fingertips were ready to move, just like the god of thunder. Feeling the cold killing intent in Lin Yi's eyes, Chang Lading was scared stiff. Every time the electric arc on Lin Yi's fingertips jumped, he couldn't help but tremble. He was afraid that a thousand thunderbolts explosion would suddenly appear on his head and smoke together with the two unlucky chancellors on the ground. You! How dare you attack me? Chang Lading was already very courageous for not running away on the spot. With his pride, He would never lose face in front of so many people. Moreover, in this place, even if he couldn't beat Lin Yi, there were plenty of people who could beat this northern island bumpkin to death. Didn't you see it? Is your eyesight bad? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Chang Lading was choked to the point of vomiting blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and gnashed his teeth. Just you wait. Believe it or not, I'll make you die without a burial place. I can't do anything to you inside, but since you're out, I can kill you with just a finger. Then hurry up and move. You're so noisy. You're not a man at all. Let me help you. Lin Yi felt that he was wasting time. As he spoke, the electric arc jumping on his fingertips suddenly grew into a dark blue lightning pillar. Although it was just a simplified version of Thousand Thunderbolts' explosion, it was still breathtaking. Before his voice died away, the lightning pillar directly fell on the head of Chang Lading. Young Master Chang, who was fierce in appearance but weak in heart, immediately fell straight down with black smoke. His posture was the same as that of the two unlucky chancellors, or even worse. There was a faint smell of burnt flesh on his body. All the people present were suddenly stunned. One by one, they hurriedly retreated more than 10 feet. They looked at Lin Yi with a horrified expression, as if they were watching the fire cloud evil god. When did such a ruthless person appear in the northern island? Without saying a word, he killed 2 unlucky chancellors in the late profound ascension stage. Now, because he felt that the other party was too long-winded, he moved his finger and struck Chang Lading down. Was this guy going to repeat the ruthless deeds of Shanghai Tianhua? Back then, Shanghai Tianhua had forced the Academy Alliance into a corner all by himself. Although this guy with lightning all over his body was slightly weaker, it was obvious that he was also heading in that direction. After all, this was the territory of the Golden Stage Academy Alliance. Let's go, Lin Yi said to Wang Xinyan, and the others behind him. He took the lead and walked in the direction of the dock. The surrounding people hurriedly made way for him, afraid that they would accidentally provoke this ruthless person from the northern island. This place was not suitable for them to stay for long. Since Chang Lading and the others had come to the door, Lin Yi of course had to fight back. However, he also expected that doing so would definitely cause trouble. It was best to return to the Morning Star Academy's treasure ship first. That way, he would have another layer of protection, and others would more or less have to worry about him. However, before Lin Yi and the others could take a few steps, a group of people suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. These people all had a special symbol on them, which was completely different from the symbols of ordinary academies. The key point was that every one of them had a monstrous aura. They were all Magnate Realm Masters in the early mountain opening stage. After coming to the Heavenly Stage Island for 2 years, Lin Yi could be considered to have seen a lot of the world. He had once been chased by the West Mountain Old Sect, but he had never been surrounded like this before. In front of him was a whole group of Magnate Realm Masters of the mountain opening stage. This group of Magnate Realm Masters obviously did not come with good intentions. Seeing this, Wang Xinyan and the others couldn't help but turn pale. With their strength, they might be able to deal with the mysterious late-stage masters. But now that they were facing Magnate Realm Masters, what could they do? At this time, the surrounding spectators were even more in an uproar. Although many of them were mysterious early-stage masters, in front of so many Magnate Realm Masters, they couldn't even stand firm. They could only quickly retreat a few hundred feet to barely withstand the pressure of this monstrous aura. Who dares to cause trouble here? Arrest them! The leader's strength was much stronger than the others. He was actually a mountain opening stage master. Chapter 49-24. As expected of the East Continent where super experts gathered. Even if it was just a Golden Stage Academy Alliance, it still had such a shocking strength. It was really not a small matter. The middle stage mountain opening expert seemed to be the guard captain. With a command, the 2 middle stage mountain opening experts walked towards Lin Yi, one on the left and one on the right. At this moment, Lin Yi's mind was racing. To be honest, the path of the magnate had not only allowed him to successfully advance to the profound ascension realm, But he had also mastered such a powerful lightning power. Now was the time for him to be bursting with confidence. However, no matter how confident he was, suddenly facing two middle-stage magnate experts was still a huge pressure. After all, these two people were not the two unlucky chancellors from before. The Thousand Thunderbolts explosion could deal with the middle-stage magnate experts, but to say that they could even deal with the middle-stage magnate experts at the middle stage was too whimsical. Not to mention the others, even Linny himself did not believe it. However, this situation was obviously disadvantageous to him. Linny could not just give up, right? He could not resist, and he could not resist either. Linny was suddenly in a dilemma, and he could not help but feel a little regretful. He did not regret taking care of Chong Lading and the two unlucky chancellors, but he regretted not escaping back to the treasure ship after taking care of the three of them. If he was on the treasure ship of the Morning Star Academy, then even the guards of the Academy Alliance would not be able to capture him in public, right? At most, it would just be wrangling. He had miscalculated. Linny sighed to himself. Just as he was about to make a decision, someone suddenly stood up from behind him. It was Lu Xiaozhong. Why should we capture Master Lin? They were the ones who caused trouble first. Master Lin was only defending himself. Everyone can see this. Lu Xiaozhong shouted at the top of his lungs. Although facing so many giants of the mountain opening stage at such a close distance, he was not a person who was afraid of trouble. Moreover, his father was a giant of the mountain opening stage, and his strength was even stronger than these people. So he did not feel that there was anything to be afraid of. Linny couldn't help but feel a little moved when he saw this. In fact, he didn't have much friendship with Lu Xiaozhong. At most, Lu Xiaozhong took care of him a little on the road to becoming a giant, but he didn't give him too many benefits. At this time, it was really commendable that Lu Xiaozhong could stand up for him without fear of power. Yeah, Linny isn't guilty. What right do you have to arrest him? Xingyan and Xiaotao jumped in front of Lin Yi as well. What? Do you want to be arrested as well? The leader of the guards narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at the three of them. His dignified face was suddenly filled with displeasure, ruthlessness, and even killing intent. As the only military establishment of the Academy Alliance, the authority of the Alliance guards was not to be underestimated. Killing was only one of the most basic duties. As long as they could come up with a reason, they could easily kill any disciple of any academy. Therefore, if they dared to disobey, even if they killed Lin Yi and the others on the spot, they would have died in vain. The Morning Star Academy would not even have the right to pursue the matter. Under such circumstances, ordinary people would have long fled to some corner after feeling the killing intent of the guards. However, Lu Xiaozhong was surprisingly unyielding. He straightened his neck and said, "I didn't do anything, I was only asking. Is that not enough? Do we, the disciples of the Morning Star Academy, not even have this little bit of authority?" As a mid-mountain opening stage expert, the leader of the guards could not be bothered to talk nonsense with such a small fry. He immediately ordered coldly, "Arrest them all." At this time, he was already being very polite by not saying to kill them all on the spot. Of course, he was not a fool. If he really killed them without saying anything, even if the Morning Star Academy could not pursue the matter openly, they would definitely hate him to the core. The three heads of the Morning Star Academy were not people to be trifled with. Seeing that the two early mountain opening stage experts were about to make a move, Linny frowned. He never had the habit of waiting to be captured. Back then, he had dared to challenge the West Mountain Elder when he was only at the Gold Core stage, let alone now. To be honest, with Lin Yi's current strength at the early Profound Ascension stage, facing these mountain opening stage experts was no longer out of reach. If he really wanted to go all out, he might be able to put up a fight. Just as Lin Yi was about to go all out, a stern and somewhat familiar voice suddenly came from afar. "What are you doing? You're blocking the way. Hurry up and get out of the way." When everyone heard the voice, they could not help but exclaim softly. No wonder the voice was familiar. It was the young-looking president of the Alliance. After seeing the president of the Alliance, the mid-mountain opening stage guard captain immediately lowered his head. After bowing with a respectful expression, He respectfully reported, "President, there's a fight here. I'm dealing with it now." "Then why aren't you moving? What's wrong with blocking the way here?" The president glared at him, then turned to the woman beside him with some deliberate humility. He smiled apologetically and said, "Master Zhang, I'm sorry to have made a fool of myself in front of you." "If it's nothing," the woman snorted coldly. Although she maintained her youthful appearance, it was easy to tell from her temperament that she was definitely an old woman who had lived for God knows how long. Furthermore, she did not hide the arrogance and harshness on her face. It was as if everyone had to lower their heads in front of her, including the president of the alliance beside her. "Please, please." The corner of the president's mouth twitched slightly. After signaling the guards to make way, he hurriedly invited the woman to go first. In fact, he was also a very arrogant person, and in terms of strength, he was far above the other party. If it was not for the fact that he needed help from this Master Zhang, he would not have been so humble. Perhaps he would have fallen out with her on the spot. The woman glanced arrogantly at the group of mountain opening stage giants, then walked through them with a high attitude. In her eyes, this group of mountain opening stage giants was probably a group of bodyguards. That kind of disdain and contempt was written clearly on her face. However, before she could maintain her noble demeanor to the end, when she caught a glimpse of the situation in front of her, she was instantly stunned. In the next moment, the woman rushed to the front of Chang lading like a gust of wind. She hugged the guy who smelled burnt and exclaimed, "Tinger, what's wrong with you? Tinger, wake up. Who did this?" When everyone saw this, they immediately understood the identity of this woman. Without a doubt, this woman was Chang Lading's mother, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy, Zhang Zili. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.